Good morning, everybody. We're ready to start. Councilors, if you could please be seated. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Councilor James Pasternak. I'm the Chair of North York Community Council. We do have quorum. I'm calling meeting 18 to order. Welcome, everybody. Although we are meeting in different locations today, North York Community Council would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and is being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. If you're registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in order that they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting North York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Members, City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on CMP, the Clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if they need help with your devices. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? I see none. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meetings from September 24th, 2024? Councillor Cole, would you move it?
Yeah.
Okay, moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, let's run through the agenda. Item 18.1, 10 Elmwood Avenue, official plan amendment and zoning amendment applications. Decision report, Councillor Cheng.
I'd like to move staff recommendations. Oh, there's a speaker.
Oh, it's the planner? Okay, we do have a speaker, but it's the applicant. So they have said that they don't have to speak if there are no opposing voices. So I don't see anyone else on the list. So Councillor Cheng, we don't have. Okay, so Councillor Cheng, you have to move the supplementary report first, then the main report, and as I said, the one speaker has said that they do not have to speak if there's no opposition to this report.
So I'd like to move the supplementary report.
Okay, supplementary report moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
And I'll move the item.
The item is amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 18.2, Leslie Street and Wilket Creek Trail Pedestrian Refuge Island. Councillor Burnside?
You have a motion. What's the motion?
We do have two speakers, so we're going to hold that for speakers.
I have some questions in standard.
18.3, 124 Sandringham Drive. I'm going to defer that to the next scheduled North York Community Council meeting as the homeowner was unable to attend today. All those in favor of deferral? Opposed? That is carried. Item 4, 85 Helendale Avenue. I have a speaker on that, so we're going to hold for speakers. 18.5 Wilson Heights Boulevard, Joel Swirsky. I'm going to defer that to the next scheduled North York Community Council meeting. All those in favor of deferral? Opposed? That is carried. 18.6, 150 to 160 Cactus Avenue, rental housing demolition application. I do have speakers on the item, so we will hold. $18.7, 3140, 3170, 3180 Dufferin Street, and a series of addresses on Apex Road. I do not have any speakers on the item.
I'd like to hold.
Hold for Counselor Cole. $18.8, 444, 466 Eglinton Avenue West, official plan and zoning amendment application, appeal report. I don't have any speakers listed. Counselor Cole?
I'll move staff report.
Staff report moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 18.9, I will hold for speakers. $18.10, 849 Eglinton Avenue East, official plan amendment, zoning amendment, and subdivision applications.
That's 18.
I don't have any speakers on this, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to defer this to the next scheduled North York Community Council. The reason being that a week from now, less than a week from now, we will have a new councillor in Ward 15. We are very excited. We don't know who that will be, but they can handle their own files from then on. Yes, Councillor Carroll.
I do have a question of staff on it, just in case there's a timing situation with it, with the new councillor coming on. I would like to ask them a question before they find themselves in a hearing. So if we could just hold it for me to ask
You
that
want to hold it for
question?
today?
Yes, because while there will be a local councillor, we too have the ability to speak to and question on items that are in other people's wards. Thank you.
You won't lose that chance if it's deferred.
That's correct. I still have to ask the question.
Okay. Okay, we're getting very excited about these questions. Okay,
Just
so
a point of order. What do we do with 18.9
18.9 is held for speakers.
speakers?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. 1811, 7 to 11 Rochefort Drive, zoning bylaw amendment and plan of subdivision application. I do not have speakers on the item. Councillor Burnside?
1811 or 18?
Rochefort.
Yeah, move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1812, I will hold for speakers. $18.13, I will hold for speakers. $18.14, 4696 Yonge Street, official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment applications. Councillor Cheng, I do not have speakers on the item.
This is a refusal, and I support staff recommendations.
Okay, so Councillor Cheng is moving staff recommendations on 1814. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1815, 3100 Keele Street, designation of fire routes, amendment to Chapter 880 fire route. I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1816, 1451 Avenue Road, designation of fire routes.
Move staff recommendation.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1817, 79 Thorncliffe Park Drive, designation of fire routes. I think we can,
I think we
we
can
can
move
move
staff.
this.
Yeah.
Okay, Counselor Carroll's moving this on behalf of the vacant seats. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 18, 47,
Same.
same. Okay, we're going to deal with this. Okay. Counselor Carroll's going to move it. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1819, 1338 York Mills Road.
Move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved by Counselor Burnside. All those in favor?
Going with staff.
Opposed? That is carried. 1820, 1974, 1982 Victoria Park Avenue.
Move staff recommendations.
Staff recommendations moved by Counselor Burnside. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1821, 237 Roywood Drive, designation of fire routes and amendment to Chapter 880.
Move staff recommendations, please.
Staff recommendations moved by Counselor Burnside. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1822, Seeley Drive parking amendments. I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1823, Millersgrove traffic calming, speed humps. I will move the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1824, I'm prepared to defer this item to the next scheduled North York Community Council meeting for the reasons given earlier, that we currently do not have a counselor for that ward, but will at the next meeting.
The businesses are pretty desperate to get this parking.
You can speak to it if you want to hold it.
Maybe we hold it, because I think that,
You don't think-
I'd just like to ask staff about the businesses. I think they're pretty frantic to get this parking. I'll just ask staff.
Your feeling is it can't wait.
Yeah, let me just ask.
Okay, all right, so let's hold it. That's fine.
That's the baby?
Okay, 1825, we do have a deputant, but at the same time, this item, I have a notation to defer it.
Community members have reached out to my office requesting this be deferred. So I
Yeah, and
think
this
we
also
can-
is once again for the ward with the vacancy. So if there's agreement here, we'll,
Yeah, they're asking.
We can defer this, yes, yeah.
okay, so the motion to defer is on the screen. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 26, I actually asked for this to be deferred because it's a major decision.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
should be done by the,
And it's part of the same thing.
Yeah,
it's part
so-
of the item before
right,
too, yeah.
okay. The new counselor will have a lot of work to do when they arrive. Okay, all those in favor of deferral of 1826 Lawrence Park Transportation Plan? Opposed? That is carried. So there are, to those in the audience or online, there are speakers for item 26, Lawrence Park Transportation Plan. That item has been deferred to the next North York Community Council meeting because currently there's a vacancy in that ward and we want the new counselor to handle that file and make the decisions on their own. So that item will not be debated today, so waiting around to speak on it is, you're welcome to, but we will not be calling that speakers for that item.
Sorry, on
1820.
a point of order, I'm sorry to keep harping on this, Mr. Chair, but the point of this council is that we make the decision together with the influence of the local councillor. They don't actually make the decisions on their own. So if we could just make that distinction, otherwise our gallery here will wonder why we have this council. They don't actually make the decision on their own. it's a democracy.
No, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, Counselor Carroll, for Democracy 101. I do appreciate it. I must have skipped that class when I was at York University. But no, I do appreciate, as Winston Churchill once said, democracy is terrible, but it's the best system we have. So there we go. Moving on, item 1827, I do have a speaker for that. It's removal of a tree. 1828, we're going to hold that as well. We have 3 speakers on that item. Uh, 1831, I don't have any. Oh, yes, okay, so we did miss one, 2937 York Ridge Road fence exemption. I do not have speakers on the item. Once again, 29, so it's a fence exemption, and this is another item for Ward 15.
I'm happy to defer.
Okay, Counselor Carroll is moving deferral. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 30, Metrolinx Ontario Line construction within North York District, fourth quarter update.
Well, this is the part in your area.
Is this a presentation? Are they doing a presentation?
Do you want to wait?
So it's, this is also,
It's the Ontario line stuff in both your wards.
yeah, so Councillor Burnside, what would you like to do with this item? It is for both wards 15 and 16. It sounds like it's just a report for information. I don't see even a notation for. Yeah, I don't even see a notation for a presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay,
You want to just move it?
go for it.
Okay, go ahead. Councillor Burnside is moving the staff recommendations on item 30, which is moving receipt. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 31, Bartley Drive, prohibition of parking.
Why can't I just move my recommendation, Jack? I have some recommendations.
Okay, recommendations moved by
I'd like to
Councillor
move.
Burnside.
After extensive consultation with all those involved in the community.
I was going to come to the meeting, but I couldn't find a parking spot.
Didn't want you anyway.
Moved by Councillor Burnside. All those in favor?
Hold on a sec.
Oh,
Is there no staff report on this?
Staff wrote it. Staff were out there.
Okay, it's one of those deals?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Thank
all right. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 32, Anndale Drive, parking amendment. I do not have any speakers on the item. Oh, it's an item that needs introduction, so we'll have 2 votes. The first vote is to introduce it to the agenda, and the second is to vote on the item itself. All those in favor of introducing 1832 Anndale Drive? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor Chang, do you want to move your recommendations?
Yes, please.
Okay, recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1833, rescinding North York 17.26, exclusion of development from permit parking, program 26 to 38 Hanslow Avenue. So this is a reopening.
Yeah, we have to reopen it. This is just, we passed something, but actually since there is no permit parking anyways, so we can't pass an exclusion, so, because it's already excluded.
So,
we're just
okay, so we're adding it to the
opening
agenda.
And then we're
We're
canceling.
reopening it,
And
and
then
then we're
rescinding.
canceling the
Yes.
previous decision.
That's right.
Okay, so a motion to introduce, all those in favor? Opposed? A motion to reopen the item. All those in favor? Opposed, that is carried. And a motion to rescind that decision, that earlier decision. All those in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Were there any other items to introduce, or that's it? We're good? Okay, we go back to the top of the agenda, 18.2 Leslie Street and Wilket Creek Trail, pedestrian refuge island has been held for speakers. Mary Ann Cavelli. Yes, please. Thanks for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the need for a refuge island on Leslie Street to facilitate safe pedestrian and cyclist access to the Wilket Creek Trail. I've lived in Don Mills almost my whole life. I've watched Leslie Street change from a 2-lane roadway where I could cross safely as a child to a 4-lane arterial road with transportation trucks and heavy traffic for most of the day, usually at speeds far in excess of the posted 50 kilometers an hour. In the past, the city responded to residents' calls to increase safety measures for pedestrians and cars crossing or entering Leslie Street. The city added a refuge island north of Overland Drive so pedestrians could access the TTC bus stop. As well, they added a center-painted median south of Overland that serves as a wait spot for cars and trucks looking for a gap in southbound traffic to turn from Overland Drive onto Leslie Street. Now's the time to add a refuge island on Leslie Street south of Overland Drive to provide safe access to the Wilket Creek Trail entrance for the following reasons. First, the existing refuge island north of Overland makes pedestrians and cyclists use the west side raised paved shoulder for about 150 meters. This path directly abuts the southbound traffic lane and is rarely plowed in the winter. This is not safe for pedestrians or cyclists any time of the year, and explains why so few people use this paved shoulder, and also why we have over 200 signatures that support the need for a new refuge island. Second, this request meets all but 2 of the city's own requirements for a refuge island, those 2 being pedestrian count and width of street. While the city staff report suggests 12 pedestrians use the access to the trail, our observation suggests on certain days about 10 pedestrians and cyclists per hour use this access point. And we anticipate more usage given the increasing density of the neighborhood. Similarly, the width of street requirement, in our opinion, has been met, and we detail that in our written submission. Lastly, and probably most important, the proposed solution by the city is not a viable option. They propose that the existing painted median be used as a midpoint for pedestrians and cyclists to wait for a gap in traffic. In fact, cars and trucks use the exact same spot to wait for a gap in southbound traffic as they enter Leslie Street from Overland Drive. And I can attest to my own experience that when you're using this median as a car driver, you're looking in your rear view mirror to find a safe gap in southbound traffic and not necessarily looking for a pedestrian or cyclist who may have entered the median in the meantime. For these reasons, and the fact that this proposal aligns with the city's Vision Zero, we ask that the council vote in favor of this proposal. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for the deputant? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. John Nelligan? Mr. Nelligan?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Nelligan, you have 5 minutes. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to hear my submission today. My name's John Nelligan. I have lived at 134 Overland Drive for 25 years and in Don Mills for most of my life. I have 2 grown children who no longer live in Toronto but still call our house in Don Mills home. When they visit, it's an unlikely occurrence for us to walk through Wilket Creek Park due to the major effort it takes to cross Leslie Street with dogs and strollers in tow. This despite the fact that Wilket Creek Park is only about 50 meters from our doorstep, and a long-established entrance to the park is only a few hundred meters south of us on Leslie. Cars travel at high speeds, and as noted by the staff report, there's a significant volume on Leslie Street. Any gaps in traffic created by the traffic control at the BMW dealership to the south are eliminated by the time they reach Overland Drive or the Wilket Creek Park entrance in question. So in the best situations, we have to be ready to scurry across if we've already initiated our crossing. As a result, we're asking council to build a safe refuge island in the center median on Leslie at the north entrance to Wilket Creek Park Trail so that pedestrians and cyclists can cross safely. We've provided the results of a petition of over 200 signatures, both written and online combined, to support this. In fact, we easily collected 1 page of signatures within a 20-minute period at the park entrance, contradicting the low pedestrian counts in the city staff report. I recognize that Leslie Street is a major access point to Midtown and downtown of the city, to and from the north, but I also respect the desire for many in the area where I live to access the park and enjoy its surroundings. However, Wilket Creek Park is becoming more of a drive-to destination rather than a walk-to destination. When our community was built in the late 1950s, Leslie Street was actually a dirt road. But as the road's been improved, very little has been done to maintain the original safety for the local pedestrians, i.e. the residents. We have attempted to, over the years, ask the city for some sort of traffic measure that would give us a better sense of common safety, maybe not like 1959, but for something that would mitigate the increase in vehicular danger from the improvements to Leslie Street over the years. Over the past 25 years, we've spoken with councillors Flint, Jennings, Robinson, Min and Wong, Burnside, as well as city staff to see how Leslie can be made safer. From traffic calming, like narrowed lanes, sensor-based traffic control at the church, the school, or at Overland Drive, and now for a pedestrian refuge island. In each of the other cases, city staff have delivered negative reports or delivered minor measures like painted medians that require further complementary enhancements like a pedestrian refuge island. I believe these negative reports are because warrants put greater emphasis on minimum pedestrian counts and less on the high volume or the speed of traffic. With increased pressure from the province to create fewer bike lanes on Ontario roads, this is also an opportune time to provide a connecting point between the Don Mills Trail and the Wilket Creek Park system, connecting the north of the city to downtown for cyclists. This section of Leslie is likely one of the longest stretches of arterial road in the city with no traffic calming or pedestrian safety measures. As a result, somehow drivers believe that it is a stretch of highway to speed. I'm still all for additional measures to create a safe environment for pedestrians and cyclists, like traffic signals, narrowed lanes, longer community safety zones, and lower speed limits for the entire length of Leslie, but a pedestrian refuge island causes the least, if any, disruption to traffic on any of these solutions. It serves to provide a safe crossing, supports Vision Zero, and with proper signage and markings can serve to slow traffic to a safer speed. This is why I believe the North York Community Council should recommend the installation of a pedestrian refuge island at the Leslie Street North entrance to Wilket Creek Park Trail. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you, John. Questions for staff? Councillor Carroll?
I do have one question of staff. We have the original request before us. We deferred it. We now have before us a report that says if we were to approve it today, there aren't funds available to do it. I understand those are Section 37 funds, although that detail's not in there. What I'm struck by in this reporting is we don't have at least a rough draft of, if we were going to do this, what it would look like. Because there is, of course, the potential that we contradict staff's recommendations today and recommend that we put one in. But I'm not getting to see what that would look like as I vote for it. Is that available? Has there been at least preliminary design done?
Thanks for the question to the chair. Our pedestrian refuge islands are a standard design. So is a standard detail. We can certainly provide that to you. But they are consistent basically throughout the city now. Again, we can certainly provide that up to you offline, but there's no design to be done. It's really a standard detail.
Okay, so is your understanding that it would go right at the intersection, or is it, there's a slight distance north to get to the trail, and there's a bus stop over there as well, or is the intention that if staff were to or if council were to approve it today, I should say, it would go right at the overland intersection?
No, it would be at the trail access point.
Oh, okay, so you would align it with the trail.
That's correct.
And that's not unconventional in any way. There's precedent to use it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for staff? No? Speakers?
Yeah, I do have a motion.
Okay. Did you want to speak to it?
Yeah, as you know, I'm pretty quick. So first of all, congratulations to John. It seems like he found the weak link after I don't know how many councillors. But congratulations on your persistence. But as you know, I bring very few motions to council. I try to vet them out, and there are a lot of people have a lot of requests to increase traffic safety, and I often, more often than not, listen to staff. So this is very rare, but I think this is very important. We talk about the operating speed of 58 kilometers. That's the average. We know that there are cars that go a lot faster on Leslie. I walk the area, I know the area, and I know the people that use the path and need to cross there. I think it's important for three reasons. The refuge island would obviously increase the visibility of pedestrians in the center of the road because they would be higher. And I think that's very important as, in the darker, as it gets darker or darker in the morning and nights. I also think it helps pedestrians because it increases their feeling of safety. And lastly, it gives people a reference point. We just heard, thanks to Carol's questions, Councillor Carol's questions, where this refuge island would go, which is at the entrance. Across the entrance. So it gives them a reference point of where to cross. So I really do feel passionately about this one. And the good news is I'm not asking the transportation to use their limited funds. And we know that is a huge problem. And we all fight for those limited funds, whether it's for speed bumps or other things. I'm using this from the development funds that have been contributed to our community. And I can use those funds to make our community safer, and that's what I plan to do. Hopefully, I'll have your support on this, on my motion, which is on the screen.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Burnside. Any other speakers on the item? Any questions for the mover? No? Okay, we can put the motion on the screen. Councillor Burnside is approving the installation of the pedestrian refuge island. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the item is, as the item is amended, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 18.4, 85 Helendale Avenue. I've held that for speakers. Yasmin Yemni? Online? Miss Yemni?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, hi, thank you. Thanks for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you for your time today. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. We're requesting the removal of a very large black walnut tree on our property due primarily to safety concerns. This tree is extremely large and continues to grow rapidly, even with regular pruning from an arborist. Because it is a black walnut tree, it drops many large nuts throughout the year. The weight of these nuts on the branches also causes some very large branches to fall, particularly during storms. We have young children in our home who play regularly under the tree. It also reaches over our back deck and our neighbor's back deck, and the falling nuts and branches could be extremely dangerous if they were to hit anyone on the head. The roots of the tree continue to spread and grow very rapidly, raising and damaging the patio stones on our neighbor's side, causing a tripping hazard for our elderly neighbors. Due to its position on our shared property line, it is warping and destroying our shared fence. With the increasing occurrence of extreme weather events, we frequently hear about severe storms knocking down trees and branches throughout the city, often causing major property damage. We are seriously concerned that during such a storm, this tree will come crashing into our home or that of our neighbor, causing major structural damage. As you may be aware, black walnut trees emit a chemical that can be toxic to the plants and trees around them. There have been discussions and debates about exempting black walnut trees from protection under the city's tree bylaws. Although they are still currently protected, this continues to be a matter of some debate. This brings me to our other health and safety concern. Several of our neighbors suffer from nut allergies, and our own child suffers from severe, and on April of this year, the council agreed to the removal of a black walnut tree on 173 Homewood Avenue, citing similar concerns. I feel that it's a very reasonable request that we remove this tree, which poses a potential personal and property danger to both ourselves and our neighbors. If this permission is granted, we agree to plant or pay for the planting of 5 replacement trees at considerable personal expense. This will allow us to protect ourselves and our property while also helping the city work towards its stated target of achieving a 40% tree canopy by 2050. I also wanted to state that we love trees, and this tree in particular, and did not come to this decision lightly. But the risks of this tree outweigh the benefits, even with consistent pruning and maintenance. Our neighbors fully support this removal and have sent an email expressing their support. In conclusion, we ask that you grant permission to remove this tree for the safety of our community and all the other reasons outlined above. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the deputant? No questions for the deputant? Okay. Yasmin, thank you very much. Are there any questions for
Thank you.
staff? Questions for staff? Councillor Cole.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, this is almost a routine request we get from anybody who has a black walnut tree in their backyard or front yard. And unfortunately, it's a reality that these trees are long living trees. This tree, in fact, is very healthy. Our Parks and Forestry staff really don't have the authority to look beyond just the health of the tree, and they don't look really at the potential impact it might have on the homeowner or the family. Certainly the allergy issue is one of great debate, but we've been there before, and it's essentially a no-win situation for anybody. But again, given the fact that this mother and resident is concerned about the health and safety of her family, her property, it's I don't really like to do this because, again, as I said, black walnuts are a tree that's all over the city of Toronto and has been there for hundreds of years and probably here for another 100 years, hopefully. But I will just on the side of the safety for her concerns and her peace of mind, I'm going to ask that we support the removal of the tree on this private property, and I'll ask for it to be removed.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Cole. Any questions for the mover or any other speakers?
Can I just speak quickly? I know I said I wasn't going to, but
Counselor Carroll?
it's just another one of those cases where we need to eliminate the confusion. Because arborists, I think, generate the confusion from time to time in trying to help their client. Juglone, which is the toxic substance that comes out of black walnut trees, is toxic to some plants, and that is true, which is why if you have a black walnut tree, you find out what species you can plant around it. For instance, black raspberry, currant, staghorn sumac, wild grape, Virginia creeper, wild rose, witch hazel, hazelnut, dogwood, shrubbery, elderberry, spicebush, serviceberries, hawthorns. It's a pretty long list of things that are not sensitive to juglone. You just have to look up which ones those are and focus on those around your black walnut tree, which is why I'm moving the staff recommendation to refuse.
Are there any other speakers on the item? No? Okay, we're going to put Counselor Cole's motion on the screen first. We'll vote on that first, and then we'll vote on staff recommendations, which are to deny, which are moved by Counselor Carroll. All those in favor of Counselor Cole's motion? You want to record a vote? Okay, in favor, Counselor Cole? Opposed? Counselor Carroll, Counselor Burnside, Counselor Chang, and Counselor Pasternak. On the staff recommendations moved by Counselor Carroll, all those in favor? Counselor Carroll, Counselor Burnside, Counselor Chang, Counselor Pasternak. Opposed? Counselor Cole. Okay, next item is 18.6, 150 to 160 Cactus Avenue. We have 4 deputants listed. Leonard Schneider? Online? Mr. Schneider? If you could unmute. Oh, there you are. Okay, Mr. Schneider, thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes. You have to unmute. Just press your audio button. It should unmute automatically.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay, great.
Yes, thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I am here today as a resident and senior citizen who has lived in the neighborhood for 20 years. My only home. It's where I feel peace, enjoy the backyard, and have a good memories. But this proposal, it's ruin everything. The developer would like to build. If you change the zoning, you should change the zoning to give them the opportunity to build a tall building, 15 stories building behind my backyard. This is a very big change for me, for all the neighbors. And I believe that this is ruin my life here. It will be during the and there is a constant noise and dust will be during the building. And I am a senior. I need my peace, and it will be ruined everything because the heavy machinery will work here and dust in the area, and I cannot even live in this home. In this plan, you are going to add the developer trying to add 483 new apartments. with much less parking space, and this will be another problem. I'm not sure where the citizen will park, and the infrastructure is here, it cannot help the traffic on the street. That means nothing is ready to bring thousands of new people in the area. So far, our area was a low-rise, quiet neighborhood, and this proposal completely ignores this. And 15-story building here change everything and made the area feel crowded, noisy, and out of place. That's why I'm asking you to reject the proposal and will take away the peace and comfort of my home and my neighbors' homes. This is what my speech. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Great, thank you very much. Questions for the deputant, Councillor Cheng?
Yes, thank you for coming and speaking to us today. Just wondering, how long have you lived there?
I am living here 20 years,
20
a bit
years.
more than 20 years.
And you know that you will get a replacement unit of the similar number of bedrooms.
Yeah, I am living in my home. I am not interested in the replacement units. I'm more talking about changing the lifestyle on the area, because it will be totally different density. They're saying that it will be density 2.5 times more than it is now. My calculation is like 5 times more. It will be a terrible change for the area.
Change is hard. I understand that. And yeah, thank you for coming to make your deputation. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cheng. Any other questions for the deputant? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Leonard. Sherry Davies?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Davies, thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good morning. Actually, I also submitted like a PowerPoint. I don't know if you have that available or if I should share. Should I share on my end? Would that make it easier?
Yes, you can share your presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, and councillors would have access to the same presentation.
Okay. Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Sherry Davies. I am a tenant in the townhouse complex that's up for demolition. I've lived here for 20 years. I've raised 3 of my children here, and I've also been a resident in the neighborhood for most of my life. I also speak on behalf of many of the tenants, and many of them have great concern about what will happen to them upon displacement. Unfortunately, at the tenant consult meeting that was held about a month ago, we were unable to ask Councillor Cheng many questions because she had double booked herself, and we haven't had any direct communications with the city regarding this proposal. So I will go ahead with my my presentation. So basically what I am focusing on here with the displacement and expensive rental market, there's a lack of affordable rental housing and availability throughout the GTA at the moment, as everybody is aware. And approval of this demolition application will lead to the displacement of residents who are on fixed incomes such as CPP and ODSP. the previous speaker also mentioned this. He's also a private homeowner in the neighborhood. He is not a resident within the townhouses. And tenants with children in the complex will also need to transfer their kids to new schools. Essentially, this displacement will increase the need for subsidized housing for those who, have low incomes. And there's also a shortage of that. And this could also possibly lead to homelessness in the long run. Renters will also be forced into the expensive rental market without same protections of the long-term tenants currently have under provincial legislation. I think I'd like to expand upon that and state that I raised this issue at the tenant consult meeting, and I asked about obtaining adequate housing. There will be credit checks. There will be credit history. There will be income checks. And for many of the residents here, they are not able to provide these things properly when they're applying for new housing, which is why they are where they are at this point in time, trying to keep their rents low. The other thing I would like to say is, if we are forced to move within the 27 months that they have proposed that redevelopment will take, will the rent gap payment be increased at all? Will there be any other future considerations when it comes to these things? That's remained unclear for all of us, and we're feeling very uneasy about what our future holds. The other points I would like to make are regarding the loss of square footage overall and livable space within the units that are proposed. The proposed plan doesn't replace the same square footage in the houses. They eliminate one full floor, including the basements, which the basements are utilized as bedrooms and office spaces. And many people are going to find that they don't have enough space for their families. Allocated parking spaces that they've planned to build 298 of those allows for only one parking space per resident. Many of us currently have 2 parking spaces that we pay for. And as the previous speaker mentioned, there is a lack of parking on the streets surrounding this area. And during the winter, there is no parking allowed on city streets, as you're well aware. If this plan goes forward, I suggest that the parking availability for tenants, if they do have 2 spaces, they should be allocated 2 spaces. It's included in our rent. It is not paid separately. Another thing to expand upon would be the access to the property and traffic congestion in the neighborhood. Currently, they're going to add 409 condominium units to an area that's already densely populated, and the traffic is horrendous. Trying to get out of one driveway on Cactus Avenue and in as it currently stands takes a long time, and there's traffic that backs up around the area. I'm not sure how they propose to address this or how everybody's going to be getting in and out of one driveway onto Cactus Avenue.
You'll have to
And I would just like to say...
Sorry, but you'll have to wrap up.
I'm wrapping it up. I'd just like to say that I would really appreciate if you could give serious consideration to the plans that are proposed, and noting that the Human Rights Code does cover rights for tenants and for relocation and for disabilities. So I'm just here, like I said, on behalf of many people and myself as well, that we are against this, but if it does move forward, we would appreciate some other consultations to have further negotiations about what is proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Questions for the deputant, Councillor Cheng?
Thank you. So I was wondering, can you just confirm, so currently tenants are not paying any additional fees for parking spaces?
Tenants pay for parking according to how many spaces they currently have. So if you have 1, you pay for 1. If you have 2, you pay for 2. However, they are not paying, I guess, separate. So you don't pay like a rent amount and then for parking separately. It's all included in our rent amount. So whatever you see as our rent also includes our parking. That's been negotiated from our original tenancy agreement. So when we pay rent, it's just rent. pay for things separately. And that also hasn't been addressed, that if this plan moves forward and we lose a parking spot, if that is the case, our rent should be theoretically reduced to show that that parking space has been taken away.
Okay, I will ask questions when the applicant makes a deputation about that. And with regard to the parking, so currently there's 69 residents that are paying for parking spots. There's 69 spots that are being used by the tenants, and there will be 60 spots made available to the rental replacements. So it's not a one-for-one for sure, but generally people who have 2 spots, for anyone under the 60 number did you know that they will have some eligibility and potential to get 2 spots? So that is possible, but 9 people will not be able to do that if everybody comes back. Were you aware of that?
Yes, I understand that. I understand that parking might be available
Yeah.
for those who have 2 spaces. The 60 that are allocated to the units, I understand, okay, but whether or not it's a tenant who returns, if a tenant does not return, 1 unit still needs to have parking for whoever rents it out. So if some of us return and we're only allocated 1 spot, what I was told at the tenant consult meeting was that we could possibly rent it from, like, possibly, I guess would be the condominium owners, if they were willing to, I guess,
But that will
let
be
us
at
purchase their spot.
that will be at market.
But that would be additional
Rent.
cost.
Yes, it'll be at market value versus these spots will be at the current rate. So, okay.
Exactly.
Those are all my questions, and thank you for making this deputation. We will try to arrange another community meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
I
Cheng.
think that would be very beneficial.
Any other questions for the deputant? No? Okay, Sherry, thank you very much. Nick Papatreo?
So these are the applicants.
Are you the applicant? Okay.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to members of Community Council this morning. My name is Ornella Rikiki, and along with me is Nick Papapatru, and we are from Resident, who are the landowners of 150-160 Cactus. Back in January 2024, the OLT approved a settlement that we had negotiated with city staff and the local councillor, which will see the overall development here result in a mixed-use development that will provide additional housing, amenities, retail, and a large public park. Throughout our approval process and ongoing, we've been speaking and dealing with staff in terms of the housing demolition requirements. And throughout that process, we have the report and results of those negotiations before you today. As it relates to that, I'd like to just highlight a couple of the salient points that are part of our agreement with the city. And as it relates to the GFA of the replacement units, we do have 60 replacement units, rental replacement units that will be part of this redevelopment. The gross floor area of the replacement units is 100% replacement, meaning what the tenants enjoy today in their townhomes, they are going to receive 100% GFA replacement of that, which is the ground floor, the second floor, and the finished basement that they enjoy today has all been incorporated into the replacement units from a GFA perspective. Currently, we have 55 eligible returning tenants, and we have provided 1 parking space for each of those eligible tenants that are returning. In addition, there are the additional 5 parking spaces for the total of 60. that can be allocated to returning tenants. And we can work through staff and the tenants as the process moves forward as to how those additional spaces can get allocated through a process. We are also providing 55 lockers for the tenants to allow them to have some additional storage space. In discussions with staff from our last community consultation meetings, we have gone back to the plan, and we have also now provided 4 barrier-free replacement units, which came as a result of our consultation with the tenants and with staff. To date, we have been following the process and been working with staff in a very positive manner, as well as working with the councillor's office and have held community meetings. And we are committed to providing ongoing communications with the tenants via our project website and whatever other initiatives the councillor's office asks us to participate in. Insofar as the report before you today, we concur with the recommendations in the report, and I'm here to answer any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any questions for the deputant?
Yes.
Councillor Cheng?
Thank you, Ornella. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for adding the storage lockers. I think that was a very generous and important addition for the community. Can you just clarify what you mentioned about the square footage GFA replacement? I think there is a feeling that they're not getting that, and so if you can just reiterate to bring clarity.
Sure. When through the prescribed process with City, we surveyed the units of the existing units and took a look at all of them and measured them today as per the requirements or specific requirements on how you measure the units. And so we measured the second floors, the ground floors, and insofar as the basements are concerned, there's a finished component of these basements in these townhouses, and we included that in the replacement. So they may not have let's say a basement in the replacement unit. However, that GFA has been allocated and accounted for in the replacement units. So their GFA is 1 for 1. They haven't lost any square footage. And in actuality, we are actually providing I believe it's around 4,000 square feet of additional space that's distributed throughout these units, a bit here, a bit there, depending on the unit. So some of them are even larger than what they have today.
And some of the tenants have expressed interest in perhaps not having 2 bathrooms in the upper level because they would like more usable space. And are you entertaining that request in revising potentially some of the floor plans?
Yes, we are. We heard at the last community consultation meeting that in the 2-bedroom units, people did not want the second washroom on the second floor. They were satisfied with just one. So we committed to them that we would go back with architects, take a look at those floor plans. It's very subjective. Some people may want, some people may not. But it was overwhelmingly surprising to us that the majority kept saying, we don't want a second washroom.
Right. And change is hard for people, especially if they've been living somewhere for 20 years. And communication and clarity is a very important part. And I think another meeting might be helpful just to bring greater clarity to some of the things you're explaining, as well as giving more clarity about how parking is going to work for those who have 2 spots. Are you open to participating in another community meeting before council? If we're able to muster a window for that?
Between now and
City Council.
City Council.
Yeah, in the next 2 weeks.
In the next 2 weeks. I think we've done that before through your office, Councillor, so we can make ourselves available.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cheng. Any other questions for the deputant? No?
Thank you.
I have one more speaker listed here, Ornella Rochelle.
That was me.
Who's Nikki?
So we came together so that to save time.
Okay, we're done with speakers. Questions for staff? Counselor Carroll?
Yes, I'm having trouble, I'm grappling with the financials of the rental agreement here. I'm wondering if there are changes to the policy, because it talks about using our CMHC affordables, but I've had the experience where we're doing a rental agreement replacement. It's whatever rent they were being paid as of a certain date in the development consideration. And then the various benefits are sort of calculated out to a easier to understand which is tantamount to X numbers of months of free rent. And we're using different language here, so I was wondering if somebody could just walk me through the financials here. They have a 20-year rent guarantee agreement. How are those rates calculated? Is it starting with the rent they were paying then, or how does this work?
Through the chair, the agreement that we're doing here will require the applicant to retain all the rental units for at least 20 years as rental.
Yeah.
That does not refer to the rent rates. And for the first 10 years, they are required to keep them at a similar rent. For returning tenants, it is slightly different, or any tenant who occupies in the first 10 years, their rent is subject to the guideline, and it'll reflect, for returning tenants, it will reflect their former rent.
Right. Oh, so it's returning tenants have that the rent you were paying is your starting rent.
Yes.
But that if it's occupied by someone other than a returning tenant, it's still an affordable unit, so to speak.
Potentially, depends on what rate the unit was captured at. So if the unit was captured at affordable, then they are required to provide it at affordable rents when a new tenant occupies it. If it was captured at a higher rate, such as mid-range moderate or a high-end unit, then the landlord can raise the price as high as those rent thresholds.
Okay. And then I only have one other question, Mr. Chair, and that is there's a clause in here that speaks to, and not until after those 20 units can entertaining an ownership condo conversion be contemplated. Is that just safeguarding legal language? I've never seen that before. Having achieved this great rental stock, I'd rather never entertain a condo conversion. But there's some language in here that speaks to the timing of it. Is that new, or is that just a sort of a legal protection clause that I've never noticed?
Through the chair, that is our standard clauses. Those are our standard clauses.
I just never noticed it before, so I have to stay here for 20 years to protect this rental stock. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions,
right,
Mr.
thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Carroll. Any other questions for staff? Counselor Cheng?
Sorry, can you explain again, what do you mean by when the unit was captured?
So at the time of application, we capture the rents when the last known rents, or what the rents are currently at the date the applicant submits the rental housing demolition application, and that's what locks the units into the red category. And so when the units are made available again, there's two scenarios. If you're a returning tenant, you pay an adjusted amount of what you previously paid, a similar rent. If you're a new tenant who occupies one of the rental replacement units, you'll have the right to access a unit at a similar rent threshold. So if it was captured at affordable, it'll become affordable. If it's captured at a mid-range rent, you'll have to pay a mid-range. Well,
And is this considered affordable or mid-range?
this site has a mix of units.
I'm sorry?
The site has a mix of units.
Of units? How long is the rent guaranteed for the returning tenants?
For the returning tenants, their rent is subject to the guideline for their entire tenancy. So even though the first 10-year period that secures rents may expire, any tenant who occupies the buildings within the first 10 years will have their rent for their entire tenancy after the 10 years and after the 20 years, subject to the guideline increases.
So if the tenant is 30 years old, they could stay till they're 80 years old, and they could still have that affordable rental rate that they have secured. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great.
And
subject to the guideline increases.
yes, is there, so currently there are 60 parking spots being made available to this building, and 69 spots are currently being rented by the returning tenants. So what is the process that would allocate for those who have 2 spots? So I'm not sure how many within the 60 would account for the one-on-one replacement, but let's say it was 50. How would the second parking spot allocation work for those who need it and already have 2 spots?
We would typically do it based on the first right to units goes to returning tenants. So new tenants who aren't at the site today would be the last in the order. So returning tenants would each get their 1 parking spot, and then subject to availability, we would make the other units available. In the past, what we've done is we've done it on seniority, but in this case where you have a tenant that had 2 parking spots, we would create a separate category and try to provide them what they used to have.
And what if there's more than there are available for the second spot? Would there be a lottery, or is it seniority?
We would do seniority, this is what we've typically done, or first come, first serve, depending on.
And those second spots would also be at the rental replacement rate and not market rate?
They would be at the rental replacement rate.
Great. Okay, those are all my, oh, and I guess the other question is the rent gap. So is the rent gap calculated at the time that they are looking for the temporary housing, or is it calculated at this moment?
The rent gap is calculated when the applicant issues the notice to vacate.
Okay.
We pick a date 6 months from that notice, and we index the rents upward to reflect annual increases in rent. And we use that date. We use the most current data available for rent gap.
And there was also a mention about some folks might have challenges getting a rental unit because of their, perhaps their credit rating, or they don't have a history of renting prior to this location. What can the city provide in terms of support to ensure that no one ends up homeless?
Part of the agreement is that the applicant, at the tenant's request, must provide a leasing agent. The leasing agent can help them gather their documentation, help them prepare their documentation, help them understand the data they have to share. The applicant is also requested to provide letters of references based on the individual tenant's status.
Okay, that was your last question.
Thank you.
I owe you 6 seconds or something. Okay, any other questions for staff? Speakers on the item? Councillor Chang?
Yeah, so this is difficult. Rental replacement is always difficult. We see people who've lived in their homes for decades. And so we just want to ensure a very robust process that has clarity of communication and as well clarity on how the parking is being allocated, because we understand that this is an area that is not served by a subway station. People are driving to be able to work, and there isn't permit parking in the area either. So we just want more clarity for the tenants. So I'm going to move without recommendation, have a community meeting, work out some further details, and then we can finalize everything at council.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chang. Councillor Chang is moving item 18.6 to council without recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item 18.7, 3140, 3170 Dufferin Street, and a series of addresses on Apex Road. I do not have any deputants listed on the item, but Councillor Cole, you held it down. Questions for staff?
Yes, I just want to raise some questions here. As you know, we had a secondary plan here, which I guess I'm not sure, what was the date of that secondary plan? This is for Dufferin, north of Lawrence, I think to 401.
Through the chair, I don't have the specific date, but it's been less than 5 years.
Yeah, so the question is, are these secondary plans really of any value? Since the secondary plan called for certain heights and densities before all the provincial changes were made to the Planning Act, which basically called for increased densities everywhere in the city, and especially near transit stations. So what good are the secondary plans?
So through the chair, I would say obviously the secondary plans still do have lots of value. I mean, of course, we are getting applications that are coming in. We cannot control the fact that people are submitting applications, but we do continue to apply the policies of the secondary plan and by and large try to achieve a lot of the objectives that are outlined. And there could be public realm objectives, there could be new streets that are being put in, there could be new parkland that's being identified. But sometimes obviously the height gets a little taller than what the secondary plan envisioned. And that's an ongoing matter that we continue to deal with, but I think we still continue to use the secondary plan as guidance, as we do with our official plan that we have across the city.
Yes, and as you well know, all the car dealerships, Dufferin used to be the car dealership capital of North America at one time, with Dean Myers and Honda and Mazda. So they're all gone basically now, being bought for development purposes. So I guess the question is, how do we explain to people who live in the area that originally the plan called for mid-rise on Dufferin, now where they used to basically call for 10, 11 stories, 12 stories, now they're all coming in at 22, 23, 24, 26, 30, 34, 40, 43. So how do we explain that change that the provincial government has made to their community after we did our secondary plan? I'm just trying to find how I can get help to communicate this to the people who have no idea the province has made these changes.
So through the chair, I think one of the first ways to explain it is when the application obviously comes in and we have our community consultation meeting. That is where we typically outline in the presentation, this is what the official plan says, this is the designation, this is what was envisioned, and then we communicate that the application has come in and this is what the proposal is. I think in some recent applications in your ward, we've also talked a little bit more about the changing provincial framework with respect to the major transit station areas and sites being near major transit station areas. We've spoken to the fact that there is a OLT process and what may happen if an application gets appealed. So that's part of the ongoing communication. I think obviously a second way to communicate is typically our planners have their names on the signs of the application site, and we quite often get phone calls from residents asking about the application, and that's how we also communicate information.
Yeah, no, okay, thank you for that, appreciate it. I'll just make a few comments, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other questions for staff? Speakers? Councillor Cole?
Yeah, no, listen, I just think this is a very daunting task for ordinary citizens. The province basically in secret has made these massive changes to development and hasn't told anybody. So they've passed bill after bill, provincial policy statements. I can't keep up. I can't find any citizen that even knows that these changes have been made. It's hard to find somebody that knows that the province has basically taken and made these dramatic changes to height, density, and the fact is that the provincial policy statement says if you're within 500 meters, 800 meters, I don't know what, anyways, you're near a transit station, basically the height is unlimited. That's what it is. So once there were single-family homes, like on Marley Avenue, I'm getting 43 stories now. So from a one-story, two-story home, and people say, hey, the city, you got to stop it. And I say, well, listen, there's something called the provincial government that's passed laws that say we have to allow density near transit station, which is a good thing. But what they can't believe, going from 2 stories, 3 stories to 43. So on Dufferin, this is what is happening with these 3 applications, and it's not their single-family homes, and I think it's good to replace the dealerships because land is too expensive. You can't be parking cars on land that's worth $1 million a lot. So the thing that people don't understand is why the city is allowing this when the city's official plan and secondary plan called for mid-rise. So they say, why is the city allowing this? So I'm just trying to find a way whereby, and I'm going to talk to staff after, we can let people know about these changes because the province has kept it a secret. They haven't told anybody. They made the changes. And plus the House of Parliament, the provincial legislature, hasn't sat for 4 or 5 months. They came back and they talked about bike lanes. You know, we're going to solve the world's problems by removing bike lanes. So, but they don't tell people they've made these changes to planning. So now it's really up to us possibly to try and let the citizens of Toronto know the changes have been made because they don't know these changes have been made. So I got to try and find a way of doing this. I know it's our staff is inundated with these changes. They're trying to do their best and inundated with applications. And so we've got to try and get this information to the citizens, the taxpayers of Toronto, who are trying to protect their neighborhoods, or trying to stay in neighborhoods, who are dealing with development. So I'll move staff recommendation because really staff is trying their best to deal with these dramatic changes and these applications. So, and these applications are generally good applications, but the fact is, how do you explain to someone that this city plan says 10 stories, they come back with 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, some case 70 stories, and the public has no idea that it's the province that's made the changes. So somehow we've got to communicate this information to the public because the province is certainly hiding this information. So I'll talk to staff offline, as they've been trying to for months, years, to try and get them to communicate to the public where the province has basically kept all these changes secret and the public doesn't even know the changes have been made. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any other speakers on 18.7? Councillor Cole, what is your plan with this? Are you moving staff recommendation?
I'm moving staff recommendation.
Staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We're now on 18.9. I have 2 speakers. Ian Graham. And you're the applicant? Okay.
Sorry. Apologies. My name is Ian Graham from R.E. Millward and Associates. I'm the applicant on this matter. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, with me is Aidan Mitchellmore, who's an architect with CS&P. Not planning to make any presentation. We're in support of the staff recommendations on the expansion of the school, and would like to note Councillor Cole's support for this matter in the past, and thanks for his office to help facilitate that. And I'm here to we're here to answer any questions of committee or staff.
Well, that was brief. Any questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aidan Mitchellmore? Oh, that was both of you. Okay. Okay, deputants are finished. Questions for staff? No questions for staff. Speakers? Councillor Cole?
Yeah, this is a refreshing change. I'm actually speaking to not a condo, not a tower of 40, 50 stories. I'm talking about a school that's being expanded. God help us. We've got an expansion of a school and a schoolyard. The community is thrilled that this school has been, it used to be a public school. We had to, and the previous counselor, 2 previous counselors ago, Joshua Cole helped the school get this property from the public school board. It was a vacant property, and I'm sure if it hadn't become a school, it'd probably be another condo. So the good thing is it's a great school, it's a prestigious school, they're very community-minded, the kids are great, the staff is great. So in the middle of this very transitional area between factories, condos, Yorkdale, everything, we've got a bit of an oasis here called the Sterling Hall School. So there's no objections to it by anybody. And so this is my pleasure to support this educational oasis in the middle of the Yorkdale area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Staff
Okay.
report.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Cole has moved staff recommendations. Any other speakers on the item? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next item is item 1810. I believe Councillor Carroll held this. 849 Eglinton Avenue East. Oh, there she is. Oh, she's done a coffee run. Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, is the oh my gosh, I didn't get you a coffee?
Yes, I guess mine got lost on the way.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'll call him
that's
and send
okay.
it back.
I'm going to buy a round next time.
But
Okay.
the point of order, are there any Remembrance Day poppies available in this facility, the city facility, so people can, I noticed nobody here is wearing poppies. I don't have a poppy. Is there any poppies in this building?
There might be one at the clerk's office down the hallway, but I'm not sure.
I think we should ask that the building provide poppies here and let the poppies be sold for Remembrance Day. Shameful we don't have them all over the place. We don't have them on. Shame on myself. Anyways,
Okay.
we need poppies.
Okay. Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Maybe that can be arranged. Okay, Councillor Carroll, you have questions for staff on this item?
I do, on 849 Eglinton Avenue East. So we have before us, you want direction to oppose this, and we don't have a local councillor here yet. But I just wanted to ask, first off, is there a timing situation here? If you have things before the OLT, I would assume that's going to be the subject of your massive first briefing with the new council here, because there are a number of sites where that will be the situation, are there not?
So through the chair, there is no specific date that has been set yet for the, we usually have what's called a case management conference.
Right.
That date has not been set. Although, I think, while I say that, I would also say that the applicant has indicated that they are interested in having mediation with the city on these applications, or on this application. So until we get direction from council to attend an OLT process, then we're limited in terms of how much additional dialogue we have with the applicant.
Okay, but are we taking a risk that that offer of entering into mediation might disappear. If we deferred it for just one cycle so that the local councillor could be a part of this, we're not risking that.
I'll suggest that our city solicitor respond to that.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I think it's unlikely that that will happen, that the opportunity for mediation will disappear. I think from the city solicitor's perspective, given that the matter has been appealed, it would be helpful to get instructions sooner rather than later. It's also a low-risk situation, just in the sense that the application has been appealed, and this is just an appeal report setting out the city's position. Nothing is necessarily locked in going forward. So I think in this instance, it would be helpful for planning staff to have instructions if community council is inclined to do that.
Okay, so one other question. In my conversation with whomever is the new counselor, I'll tell you what I'll be warning them of. This is an interesting application because it agrees to replace commercial square footage. There's a 6-story commercial building in here. Have there been discussions that we're going to phase that so that you have to build a commercial building? It needs to be the second building or something so that we don't lose this square footage. Is there some way we have phased it to guarantee getting that commercial square footage on Eglinton?
Through the chair. So a portion of the site is actually designated employment lands.
Yes.
So unless they were to convert that portion of land, they have to come in with some sort of employment use for that site.
But we haven't locked it into phasing such that they could build the 2 buildings and then come back to the councillor a decade later and say, oh, please don't make me build this commercial square footing. If I sound like a councillor who's been burned many times on this, it's because I have. Have we made some safeguard in what we're proposing here? Or if we haven't, would I have to move a motion for you to keep that on the table, that we need to guarantee we get the commercial space?
That could be part of the mediation process, but that wouldn't be something that we would settle on until we actually have a bylaw or something to put in place.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair. I'll just speak briefly.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carroll. Are there any other questions for staff on this item? And I do have a motion on the floor already for deferral. Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Carroll to speak.
So this is really just a message to us all. I'm going to support deferral now, Mr. Chair, having learned that it is low risk. That's great comfort. But I'll tell you this, whomever wins, I'm going to be in there to tell them the wisdom I will be imparting is that we are setting commercial square footage into application after application, particularly on the east side of North York, and then it disappears. They come back begging for conversion. They come back looking for a reduction. And, you know, I can see reduction from time to time, but it's the disappearance that drives me nuts. The disappearance means we're not going to have any kind of commercial profile at all. So in this case, it's not a certain number of square feet inside a building, and so you can play around with that a little bit over the years of the build out. This is, we want a 6-story building of commercial. And I'm going to be the first one into that new councillor's office to say, you've got to nail that down. You've got to insist that it be phased. You can't build your 3rd building till this exists. Something like that. That's the only way the one time that we were successful in doing that in Consumers Road Business Park, it was because of that. You don't get the last phase of residential until this building's in the ground. And I think we really got to start watching that, especially where it's a distinct building. They just are finding their way to the province and being converted, and we're going to lose our ability to have an economy. Those are my comments. I'll support your deferral motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Anyone else to speak on the item? Okay, a motion to defer this to the next scheduled North York Community Council meeting is on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Item 1812, 230 and 240, the Donway West. I have a series of speakers on there. Daniel Gurr, Options for Homes. Lily. Lily, I'm going to pass this to you.
My name's Daniel Gare, and I'm the CEO of... Is the mic on now? Yeah, wonderful. My name's Daniel Gare. I'm the CEO of Options for Homes. Options is responsible for managing the redevelopment of the Donway Covenant Community Church. Our organization has been around since 1994. And since inception, we've delivered 3,500 units and helped over 6,500 families obtain home ownership. As a nonprofit, we are solely focused on assisting individuals own a home who otherwise could not afford to. We are here in support of staff's recommendation and to thank them for their hard work on the file. I'm joined here today by members of the Donway Covenant United Church, who have been amazing partners on this redevelopment. We commend the church for the foresight they've had to create a model that protects their community involvement while also responding to the need for housing in the neighborhood. Throughout the approval process, we've had many opportunities to engage and respond to the community and are proud of the results you see here before you. I'm joined here with members of our consulting team as well to answer any questions you may have about the redevelopment plan or our organization. And the next speaker you're going to hear after me is a gentleman named Tom Joyce, who is here speaking on behalf of the Donway Covenant United Church, who is our partner on the site. And we thank them for their attendance today. Thank you.
It's over. Thank you so much. Any questions of the deputant? No, thank you. Next, we have Tom Joyce from the Donway Covenant United Church to speak. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tom Joyce, and I'm a member of the Donway Covenant United Church. I'm the chair of the Fellowship Committee, a member of our Redevelopment Committee, and sit on our Governing Council. I'm here today representing the church in support of staff recommendations. I'm also here on behalf of the church to thank city staff for all their hard work to get us to this important milestone. We would also like to thank our partner, Options for Homes. Our congregation is filled with energetic members committed to living out the mission and the vision we have set for ourselves as a church. We are an affirming congregation offering many programs and events that anyone and everyone in the community is welcome to participate in, as well, of course, our worship services. The demographics of the Don Mills community have changed considerably since the late 1950s. So too have our programs to meet the changing needs. For the last 20 years, we've been a partner in the Don Mills Community Share Food Bank. We are a partner in the Interfaith HENS, standing for Home Essential Newcomer Support program, providing clothing and household items to newcomer families. Bi-weekly, we offer an ESL conversation program for anyone interested in improving their English language skills. Weekly coffee drop-by, book study group, scouts and guides, and choir programs are all open to all. Like many other churches, our membership is getting older, and we have fewer people than when the church was first built. Our buildings are large, over 20,000 square feet, larger than we need to run our programs today. The age of the buildings make maintenance more complex and time-consuming for our volunteers, and more costly. So a few years ago, we decided to step back and determine what we wanted the future of our congregation to be. We decided supported by the United Church of Canada, that we wanted to stay in the Don Mills community, to provide programming and events for the diverse residents. We also want to provide outreach for those beyond our community. We wanted physical space that was more flexible in design and easier to maintain. And lastly, we wanted to provide space on our property for housing, which is much needed in our city. The congregation strongly supported this decision, and we were one vote shy of unanimous support. As part of the decision, we decided to partner with Options for Homes, a nonprofit organization, to develop the property with us. And not only because of their proven track record for this kind of thing, but also their values is closely aligned with those of the church. Once again, I would like to thank city staff for all the hard work they went into getting us here today. And I would like to reiterate once more the church's support for this important project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the deputant? I have a question. So in the new project, will you be able to maintain the programs that you currently run, ESL, food bank, scouts, book studies, and choir? Does that space still allow that?
So our process in coming up with what we needed for our new space was to look at what programs we have. The church currently has a very large building, and before we entered into development, we were renting out. We were becoming a renter. We are looking to get away from being a renter, but to still maintain all of the active community programs and church programs that we currently run. In order to do that in a smaller space, we need a facility where the buildings, the space can be used multi-purpose. And that is being designed into the new facility.
So I imagine that you provide quite an affordable rent for community space. And what will happen to all those programs that will no longer be able to rent space from you?
Well, most of the renters that were in that have actually moved out because we started this project about 5 years ago. The programs that are currently being run, for example, early on, which is a daycare program, will be running, and other programs will be able to use space if space is available, which we expect there to be. We're not running 24/7 in a church. We would have space available, but our primary focus will not be as a renter.
And do you foresee that as our city grows, that we will need less and less faith spaces in our city? Because I see a lot of conversions happening. And is it the plan that we will just have fewer worship spaces even though the population is growing rapidly around us?
Well, that's an interesting philosophical question that becomes very difficult. Many of us believe that whereas there may be less need for traditional worship space, the need for social interaction, of which we believe strongly in the faith side, of looking out and caring for our fellow community people, looking out for newcomers as they're coming and arrive in this country with absolutely nothing, looking out for people who cannot afford daycare, regardless of their faith background. Many of our programs are interfaith programs. That will be growing and will continue to be a need in the city of Toronto for quite some time.
But not so much worship faith spaces. Smaller, less.
Our congregation, the number of people worshiping on Sunday morning has declined, yes, as it has in most churches. We still have an active Sunday morning. We don't know where that one's going to go, but we are looking at the facility for this space to be able to be used in multiple ways.
Right. So I'm sorry to hear this has happened to your congregation. And just as an aside, I just joined a church that just added a service because it's growing. So it is possible. With faith, all things are possible. So thank you.
Well, I'd just like to add, we're excited. So we're not in despair. We're excited about the opportunity going forward of the different ways in which we can serve in the Don Mills community.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Cynthia McDougall, Options for Homes.
Good morning. I'm the lawyer on behalf of the applicant. I'm wondering if, in fact, I perhaps answer questions at the end, because I understand there's some people with concerns about the development who might be speaking, and it might be more useful rather than anticipating what their comments might be and answer any questions
Sure.
at that point.
That's fine.
If that would be helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
So next we have Helen Clyde, a video conference. Not online. Ian Stewart. Ian Stewart? Okay, Ian, you have 5 minutes. Oh, please
My name
unmute
is Ian
yourself,
Stewart.
Ian. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you have to unmute the camera. Or unmute. Oh. Try.
Is that work?
Yes, we hear you now.
You hear me now? Thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry about that. My name is Ian Stewart. I'm speaking on behalf of my in-laws, John and Helen Clyde, who have lived at 6 Duncairn Road, which abuts the church land since 1990. In my submission, I've excerpted several sections from the Central Don Mills Secondary Plan Objectives, Section 2.1, which the current development application does not appear to satisfy. In short, the application does not appear to preserve the stability of the residential neighborhood outside the ring road in scale, height, and built form. Moreover, the development does not appear to enhance the streetscape because the proposed building at 6 stories is too large for the site and is to be built too close to the street. The original setback of the current Donway United Church building is not being maintained. The size and massing of the proposed building is too close to the municipal road, even with step backs on upper floors. The building, quite frankly, looks like an office building. Moreover, the redevelopment will see the removal of 37 trees. Many mature trees abut the Clyde's property. Some are as old as 75 years. This development would set a precedent beyond the Mallow School redevelopment, which was limited to townhouses, which are approximately 3 stories in height. Unfortunately, the objectives of Section 2.1 are in part contradictory. The current development proposal does appear to meet some of the objectives, for example, affordable housing, but it also contradicts other objectives that I've listed at the same time. How does the planning process reconcile these contradictions and competing objectives? My concern about the objectives is that they can be used by developers as well as neighborhood opponents to make a case for or against the development. In the end, the Central Don Mills Secondary Plan objectives do not serve the public good because they contain contradictory objectives. If development in past has been, for this type of building, has been inside the ring road, and this really sets a precedent outside the ring road. The Mallow School redevelopment has been used as an example of a precedent, but it was limited to townhouses. So in closing, we feel that this, in addition to having a huge impact on the Clydes because they're right next to the property and will remove any privacy that they've had since 1990, it just sets up future development in this area, and potentially the budding school could then, this whole area could be turned into a condominium complex in the future. So it's your responsibility as a council council to preserve the integrity of the Don Mills neighborhood. I grew up in Bayview Village, and Bayview Village is being encroached. This was established as a garden setting, and this building really has an impact on the walkway. If you stick to the original plan, then you retain the original concept. I know that the province and Premier Ford is tying the council's hand to some degree by intermeddling in your business. I don't have a political agenda here because I voted Liberal and Conservative, so I don't have an axe to grind, but I do think that the plan of this neighborhood as originally designed should be preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the deputant? No? Thank you for making a deputation. Next, we have Mark Richardson from Housing Now TO. Someone will come and help you. Well,
Microphone's on? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Mark Richardson. I'm a volunteer with Housing Now TO, which is a volunteer organization. I'm here to talk to you today about the Yes in God's Backyard movement. There we go. Now it's working. All right, there we go. So, councillors, you've moved a big motion recently in the last year to create 65,000 affordable homes of all different kinds. And the proposal that's before you today is an incredibly small part of the 65,000 new houses that you're looking to build for affordable housing opportunities in the City of Toronto. YIGBY is not just a Toronto thing, it is a North American-wide movement. You can see the idea of finding new uses for declining houses of worship. And that is exactly what's happening on this site. Houses of worship of different kinds are declining. I volunteer at a United Church on the Danforth in their Out of the Cold program. We have like 4 different faith groups using one building, because the numbers are dropping on the original congregation that built that building 100 years ago. We also do a lot of work with Toronto Metropolitan University. We did a project for Councillor Jamal Myers on a faith-based piece of land with one of his churches that is going through this transition right now with students from the Toronto Metropolitan University. Our volunteers are happy to do that for you with any organization or faith-based group, temple, mosque, whatever it is, where we can help you, help empower the people in those communities to understand what their land is worth, what housing opportunities are available on that land. We've been in all of these meetings. Most of these meetings did take place online because a lot of it was during COVID. This is the gentlest of gentle density. The previous gentleman talked about it being an office building. I mean, this has got everything. It's got the angular plane, it's got all kinds of stuff. All it's doing is it's crossing the street in Don Mills. Apartment neighborhoods are allowed on one side, low-rise is allowed on the other side. He was asking why this doesn't conform with the Don Mills secondary plan. Like a lot of your plans in North York, The Don Mills secondary plan is really old and not fit for purpose if you're going to reach your targets of 65,000 units of affordable housing by 2030. So we don't want to take a lot of time other than to say this is an exceptionally good proposal. Earlier today, I think it was in Councillor Cheng's, there was an earlier proposal where people were being displaced from townhouses by a taller building. This is a zero displacement project. You're creating affordable housing, you're creating it with established partners, with a local faith group. This should be the easiest yes in the world, and you should be photocopying this all through North York. So we would encourage you to approve this today. And if you ever have any questions about affordable housing delivery, our volunteers are more than happy to help. And that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the deputant?
Just one, I was girding my loins for you to make a speech that it should be twice as tall, Mark. You disappointed me.
Well, you know, I need to keep Councillor
good with the way
Burnside
it
on my
fits.
good side because I'm trying to do the Housing Now sites at the Science Center. So this is totally reasonable, and this is ready to go. So part of the
Yes.
reason why we want ready to go is we don't know what the federal government funding programs are going to be in 6 months.
Very good point.
The
Thank you.
ability to move on something today is critical.
Very good point. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's my question, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next deputant is Cynthia McDougall, is coming back.
I think the staff report was excellent and identifies the fact that it's actually, there's been a lot of care about the placement of the building. So if you have any questions, I'll answer them. But I just wanted to say, it is actually the smallest project I'm working on in my office at McCarthy Tetro. It's 6 stories, it's step backs and setbacks. It has a 13.9 meter setback to the north. Your standard setback in the report that's going to planning and housing on avenues, I'm not suggesting this is an avenue, but it is going to be 27 meters. It's 27 meters and you've got a 21 meter building, which is less height than the big road. You're actually got a setback in your staff report that's going to planning and housing at 7.5. So while the neighbor is upset and genuine, and I respect that, and I respect community input, I want to say that, in fact, you should be supporting a 6-story building here because we don't know what 10 years is going to look like or 20 years of what the feds are going to do or the province. This is a very excellent example of infill with a community partner, the church, and I commend it to you, and I thank staff.
Any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions of staff? No? I have a question for staff. I'm just wondering, what is the, I'll set my timer. What is the difference in space of faith space? So from the original church to what it is in this new development?
So through the chair, we do have our planner that's online. And
Oh, great.
perhaps she can answer. I can tell you the proposed new faith space is 724 square meters. So that's what the new, or 734 square meters.
Great. And
Hi, I'm Ingrid. I'm the community planner assigned to this file. Can you just give me a moment to
Sure.
find the original?
Thank you.
And then I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
So, sorry, through the chair, I think I found the answer.
Okay, great.
Councillor. So the existing space is 2,100 square meters?
Right. That's all my questions. Thank you. Speakers on the item. Councillor Carroll?
I just want to say quickly, you don't see it in the picture there, but it's similar to a neighborhood in mine. This is in the neighborhood of Shops at Don Mills, just right across the street, and all the development going on. Those are all buildings that went in during a time when there was no program. There was nothing left in the way of our being able to put in affordable housing. There were no housing allowances left. Let's Build was over. So in all of the intensification in that section, zero affordable, zero. We're just now beginning to layer it in. So this is about making sure that there is a great mix in that neighborhood. And so I can't thank the church enough. I'm sentimental butter. I've been to a couple of weddings in that church, and I suppose I might be bent out of shape if one of those weddings was my own kids or something like that. But what they're doing here is keeping themselves in the neighborhood and adding to the Shops of Don Mills area what we couldn't do in the 2000s. And so it's wonderful to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other speakers? Councillor Cheng?
So I applaud the effort to build affordable housing. It is indeed important. I am concerned that we are a growing city that is losing faith spaces. I look at our growing population, and I believe that faith spaces play a really important role in our communities. It provides affordable programming space to the neighborhood. It serves as a hub for people to connect with each other, and it houses many important services such that were listed, like a food bank, like ESL programs. And while we see shrinking faith communities across the city, I'm afraid that many problems that faith communities solve, like food insecurity, those problems are not shrinking. And so, and I also know there are faith communities out there that are new church, the term is not correct, but church startups. People are planting churches and they don't own properties. They're not part of, older established denominations, and they can't afford to buy space. I also have 2 mosques in my neighborhood that can't afford community space, can't get enough space to do their Ramadan prayers. So this is a problem I see across the city, that we are losing faith spaces and our population is growing. And I, as someone whose faith is very important to my life, I think that we want, as people come to our city, to have the opportunity to participate in faith if they choose to. But if we shrink the square footage of faith spaces, the role that they can play in our growing city is shrinking. So I know that my councillors are going to support this project, but I would like to say to the United Church, please stop selling your churches. You can build great housing, but don't shrink your faith. Have the faith that you can revive your faith, bring more people into the building, and play a role in your neighborhoods that can actually feed the spirits of all the people who are coming to our city. And so I'm going to symbolically vote against this, not because I'm against affordable housing, but I am against losing more than half of the faith space in this project. And I'm against the loss of many churches across our city, including one in my ward that is going to become townhouses. And so I'm going to symbolically vote against it because I know it's going to pass, simply because I think we have to protect faith spaces and value the role that they play in our growing city. Thank you.
Can I speak?
Yes, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I listen. I really appreciate the councillor's dedication to her faith and concerns about what's happening to our faith-based institutions and churches. But I have to say that the last church that should be criticized for what they're doing in housing is the United Church. They've been outstanding in the forefront of working with all kinds of nonprofit groups, building affordable housing. I mean, they are the leaders. I wish my Catholic Church would play half the role that the United Church plays in this. So I think the other faiths should follow the lead of the United Church. They are so community-minded, so housing-minded. I mean, so we should not in any way criticize them, and so we get more to follow them. And then, because the main thing is, I find, is people have stopped going to church. And so what are they going to do with their empty buildings? There used to be lineups and people going to services on Sunday. They're all at Costco on Sunday. They're not at church. Anyways, I support this application. I think it's excellent application on all fronts, and everybody involved in it should be commended for taking the time and the interest and the initiative to do something about our housing, which many other institutions and et cetera are not. So hats off to the United Church, and please keep being the United Church. Thank you.
Any other speakers on the item? No?
Yeah.
Councillor Burnside.
Yeah, okay, so getting back to the matter at hand. So thank you to the folks at the church and the developers. You have been wonderful to work with. I know even with wonderful developments, not everyone's happy. You know, neighbors get impacted. There are certain things that people would like to see that they can't see. But all in all, this is a wonderful development. In Toronto, change is coming. You know, whether it's fourplexes or the major streets policy, or put my motion up, please. Thank you. Whatever that change is, it's coming, and it's coming fast, and it's going to have a greater impact on neighborhoods than it does now. So what I say to residents who may not love this is that be careful what you wish for. 6 stories is a lot better than 16, right, Mark? Where we are up in the back there. I live on the other side of the Donway, where I'm 100 meters away from 4 towers, the highest being 36 that are planned. I can't speak about it because I have supposedly a vested interest, but change impacts us all, but this is a good development all in all. The one thing I do have a problem with all the developments is the parking situation. I actually don't like parking because that brings more cars into the neighborhood. But what I found is that a lot of developments come in and then the new residents ask for permit parking. And so that is something I don't think should be in the cards. And so that's where my motion comes in, that we request the General Manager of Transportations to review and report back on the feasibility of excluding the development from permit parking. Great, more people are going to be coming to the community. Great that it's affordable housing. Leave your cars behind. That's not and don't expect to park on the side streets because there's no parking or development. So hopefully I can get support for this. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe they like me more. I'm not sure. But we did do a lot of work on this, and apparently it might be slightly different. But I've talked to the folks. I've talked to legal, and we can hopefully deal with your motion another time. Today it's about mine. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burnside. Okay, so we have the motion on the screen. There we go. All those in favor? Your hand went halfway up, Councillor Chang. That means you sort of support it. Okay, all those opposed? No one? Okay, that carries, and the item is amended. All those in favor? Recorded vote. Okay, recorded vote. All those in favor of moving the staff recommendations? All those in favor? Councillor Carroll, Councillor Cole, Councillor Burnside, and Councillor Pasternak. Opposed? Councillor Chang.
Oh, my God. Against the United Church. I can't believe it. I know, I'm just saying.
Okay,
They still do food banks. They don't do it on site. They do it in hubs. They're big.
item 1813, 1800 Shepherd Avenue East. We have deputations on the item. William Nelson.
Are they online?
William Nelson.
They might be online.
They are really.
They're great housing partners. They're getting the church they want. That's how many square feet.
You know what that means? They have no love. If you have love, your church would not shrink to a tiny little. You don't love.
That's a pretty extreme
No,
thing
but they
to
love
say
Costco
about a
more.
really nice congregation.
Yeah, just a few, but
You're a
People
lovely
love
Rolla.
on Sunday.
Rolla Hamdan.
They've reached out to the neighborhood. That's a pretty extreme
They're the
thing to
best
say
in the church.
about a very nice.
Okay, councilors, we have a speaker. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, Chair and members of North York Community Council. My name is Rolla Hamdan. I am a community legal worker with Willowdale Community Legal Services. Been serving the community for over 23 years. A former chair of the Fairview Interagency Network, a current chair of the Flemington Health Center Board of Directors, and a current member of the Build a Better Fairview. I'm here today to advocate for the affordable housing piece and needs that are vital to our community members. First, we would like to congratulate the city staff and Cadillac Fairview for reaching a plan. We sincerely appreciate the tremendous hours of engagement dedicated to improving the initial official plan amendment for the Fairview Mall redevelopment project. Their commitment to listening to community feedback throughout this process and making adjustments has been invaluable, and we appreciate their efforts to make this plan more responsive to the needs of our community. While we acknowledge the commitment to allocate 3% of the gross floor area for affordable housing, we must express that 3% dedicated for only 40 years is insufficient to meet the pressing needs of our community. I think we can do better than 40 years here. The importance of affordable housing cannot be overstated, particularly for low-income individuals and families living in the community. Toronto is the most expensive city in Canada to live in. Access to affordable housing is essential for stability, for health, for the overall well-being. The scarcity of affordable housing in Toronto results in overcrowded shelters, precarious living conditions, and a cycle of poverty and health issues that is challenging to break. For many residents, it is the difference between being able to afford basic necessities like food, like healthcare, like education, or facing the threat of homelessness. We urge the city and Cadillac Fairview to collaborate on a revised official plan amendment that clearly maximizes the proportion of affordable units and ensure affordability in perpetuity. We again ask for 20% of the new housing units be designated as affordable, in line with the City of Toronto's definition, and we ask that half of these affordable units be deeply affordable, designated as rent geared to income units, so that those who live in poverty can afford to be part of the pattern of the community that we're creating around the Fairview Mall. We have heard from our clients, from Justice Makers members, community members, for the critical need for affordable and accessible housing for low-income populations on this site for them. It is vital that the city and Cadillac Fairview account for this need in future discussions regarding housing. We would like to emphasize the importance of the city establishing a working group that includes Build a Better Fairview, the Fairview Interagency Network, Justice Makers, and others. This will ensure that priorities and outstanding concerns are considered throughout all phases of development in the coming years. Additionally, we support the letter submitted by Build a Better Fairview regarding this project, as it aligns with our commitment to advocating for our community's needs. Thank you for considering these concerns.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions for the deputant? Councillor Carroll.
Yeah, hi, Rolla.
Hi.
So the working group that you're contemplating, that goes beyond the discussion. Currently, we're having scheduled meetings between Build a Better Fairview and Cadillac Fairview, but what you would like is a sort of peer, ongoing constituted group.
Definitely. This is a need. It could include Build a Better Fairview. It should include Build a Better Fairview and other organizations, networks in the community. So we are on board with the city, with your office, with the developer on what's happening moving forward.
Because
So it could be a working
many
group.
years build out.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I may not move a motion about that today, but I have many more questions. I don't want to take up time here. I have many more questions about how we could put terms of reference around that.
Sure.
So we'll
Sure.
follow up. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for the deputant? No? I have next,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have, it looks like two representatives from Build a Better Fairview. Can one speak on behalf of the group? I'm looking for Cassandra Crease or Mona Dye.
So from what I understand, I am representing Build a Better Fairview, and Mona Dye, even though she says BABF, she's speaking on behalf as a local resident because she lives in the area. So it'd be great if we both speak.
Okay, all right. Thanks for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Dear members of North York Community Council, so BABF, or Build a Better Fairview, is a group of residents, community, and service organizations dedicated to the responsible, equitable, and sustainable development of the Fairview area. We are writing and speaking to request the city to continue to work with Cadillac Fairview to revise their official plan amendment for Fairview Mall. As well, we request that the city establish a community working group to continually engage with local residents and organizations as the approval process progresses. We applaud the considerable effort that Cadillac Fairview and the city have engaged to improve upon the initial OPA and to listen to community feedback since the event organized by BABF and Councillor Shelley Carroll's office in May, that was May 6, 2024, this year. However, there are still many outstanding issues in the proposal that need to be addressed to meet community needs as outlined below. So affordable housing and density. So the proposed 3% of the gross floor area dedicated to affordable housing and the 40 years only is not enough to meet the needs of the Fairview Mall community, as we have previously outlined in our report. At our May 6th event and in communications with the city thereafter, we had requested that all levels of government invest in affordable housing on this site, in addition to securing concessions from the developer. The city and Cadillac Fairview should now work on a revised OPA that outlines how government stakeholders will continue to, 1, contribute to the maximizing the proportion of affordable units, and 2, providing affordability in perpetuity. We ask, again, that 20% of new housing units be affordable in perpetuity, according to the City of Toronto's definition. Half of these affordable units, 10% total, should be deeply affordable rent geared to income units. We've heard from residents and service organizations about the importance of providing affordable, accessible housing for seniors on site, and we ask the city and Cadillac Fairview account for this need in future discussions about housing. Lastly, the revised OPA does not show what the experience walking on the ground would be between the tall towers proposed. Residents are concerned about the heights and density of the towers, and we have previously raised concerns about the wind tunneling issues shown in the initial proposal. So that was the last for the affordable housing that I'm speaking about, but there's some more. Community spaces and facilities. So we asked that CF, Cadillac Fairview, revise the OPA to include high-level information on general size, location, and phasing of the proposed spaces for childcare and community organizations. As we had previously expressed at the May 6th event, we are especially concerned that there's no dedicated space nor provisions for a school site, nor proposals for expanding nearby schools as part of this official plan amendment. The increase in density to 12,000 new anticipated residents on this property, combined with the residents of the 5 Fairview Mall site, means that there's an even greater need for a new school on site. There could be around 1,000 new school-aged children in this block, assuming a similar demographic profile to the City of Toronto generally. So BABF asks that Cadillac Fairview revise the proposal to indicate how a school can be accommodated as part of the phasing of the proposed development. We do not want to see another sign saying that local schools have no space for no students. And in my last minute, public realm design and infrastructure. We have heard from numerous residents the need to address impacts to traffic as well as pedestrian safety. In the current OPA, the design of paths between the north and south site lack animation in conflict with parking areas, highway entrances, and loading zones. And to the last point about climate action, we applaud Cadillac Fairview's commitment to striving for the highest tier of the Toronto Green Standard in place at the time of permit application. We ask that the city hold Cadillac Fairview accountable to this goal. And in conclusion, we are grateful for all that Cadillac Fairview and the city have accomplished in the past months to improve upon the initial proposal for this site. There is still much room for improvement. BABF will continue to be engaged in the development, and we want a robust plan that is built on a commitment of equity, environmental sustainability, and corporate responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one comment. I think we're going to say exactly the same thing because I was going to mention something. You go ahead first.
Oh, thank you. Hi, just one quick question. The request, Build a Better Fairview, has always had the goal of 20% affordable housing, but we've sort of gone around the block over and over again on what the provincial restrictions put in place, because that happened halfway through. This application was made, and then the more prescriptive change was made by the province. Build a Better Fairview members, are they aware of that being the biggest impediment?
We are aware that there's inclusionary zoning that has not been passed by the province and whatnot. And we understand, as was earlier noted in another agenda item, that around transit areas, there's no minimum. We understand in terms of density and how tall the buildings are. So that's what we're aware of. But we want to see affordable housing. Definitely.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks so much.
I was wrong. I thought you were going to bring up school capacity, which I will bring up. So it is the sleeping elephant of the city, the lack of school capacity as we intensify and as we grow. When it comes to building schools, it used to be school boards tried to do it, but that didn't work out so well. So it comes right out of the Ministry of Education, their capital plan, and it goes province-wide. And I believe there's just over 70 school boards and 2 million students. So there's quite a lot of demand. But you should work with your local school board trustee to make sure it's on the radar, because the school boards send recommendations up to the ministry, and they're the ones who actually fund the building of the schools. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is a crucial issue across the city, school board or school capacity issues.
Thank you for that advice.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, or we're good? Okay, thank you very much. Now, we had at the top of the list a William Nelson. We believe we have him online now, so Mr. Nelson?
You hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Thanks for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Perfect. I appreciate you bringing me back near the end. So I am a business owner in the immediate area. I have been working at the Fairview Mall location, the medical building, for more than 10 years. And basically, I did upload and provided to you a brief outline of my comments yesterday. So I hope that you have access to those, but they'll be basically the things that I'll be referring to. So, key issues with the proposal, in my opinion. Number one is density. So the revised proposal shows no meaningful difference from the original proposal, which the council did not initially approve. In fact, the new proposal is even less attractive in many respects, with a plan for 14 new high-rises rather than the initial 12. This results in a higher density than originally proposed. My key objection initially was that at that time, the density was too high, suggesting 6 or 8 towers as being more appropriate. But now, they rather than decreasing, they have increased density in the new proposal. Another issue is adjacent developments. So Marlin Springs redevelopment at the Esso gas station at 2500 Don Mills Road, directly next to 1800 Shepherd, which is the current proposal, has recently been approved. It includes 2 new towers, 52 and 43 stories, adding over 800 new residential units. If NY 18.13 is approved in its current form, that would bring the total to 16 high-rise towers within essentially a single city block radius. Furthermore, Northwest Property, particularly relevant to me, is also proposing further construction on its Fairview Mall Drive property, directly adjacent to Cadillac Fairview's redevelopment. This plan includes 2 more towers on the current medical building's parking area, which would bring the total towers under development to 18. All of that in addition to the large number of apartment and condo complexes already in the immediate area. So key issue number 2 is current market conditions. So the proposal fails to consider the current conditions of the GTA market and recent large-scale projects such as the one at Yonge and Bloor. Developer Sam Marazzi's project, intended to feature an Apple flagship store, faced lawsuits, cost overruns, and delays, ultimately resulting in him being put into receivership, which has recently changed, but at the time was done. I would argue that since that time, which was about 2 years ago, the market has not significantly improved and remains challenging both for developers and new homeowners. And hopefully you do have access to my printed copy, and I have referenced 2 links, one from August 2024, and one from June 2024, indicating the slowdown in the condo market and also the drop in sales, even in spite of record listings during the summer of 2024. And so the question is, although Cadillac Fairview may have the reserves to finance the project, will the market support such a high volume of new residences in such a confined space? And then point number 3, which is known to everyone, basically increased congestion. The high density of this proposal will contribute further to the already severe traffic congestion in the area, working against Toronto and the province's goals of reducing congestion levels. Toronto Region Board of Trade survey found that 53% of respondents have contemplated moving out of the GTA due to traffic issues, even with higher numbers among this 18 to 34 demographic. Chronic congestion was found to discourage residents from engaging in daily activities like shopping, dining, or even spending time with family, prompting some to consider moving out of the Toronto region altogether. Congestion is definitely a current problem. And then finally, although not directly included in the current proposal, if the Northwest Properties redevelopment plan were to be revisited, it would pose even more issues. This plan proposes two 30-story towers in the parking lot of the existing 4-floor medical building at 5 Fairview Mall Drive. This years-long construction in such an immediate proximity to both the library and the medical building.
If you could wrap
meters
up,
away.
your time is done.
Yep.
Thank you.
One sentence last would significantly impact those locations. I would also say that it would add little residential value to the area.
All right.
If
Okay.
16 towers were added.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you very
for
much.
your comments. Any questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you very much. We can move that motion now to finish, extend to finish. Okay. Okay, all those in favor of extending the meeting past 12:30 to finish? Opposed? That is carried. Next on the list is Mona Dye. Online, okay. Ms. Dye? Oh, Mona, please unmute. Just.
Hi, are you able to hear me? Hello?
Okay, Ms. Dye, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Mona Dye. I'm an architect and another volunteer with BABF, as well as a local resident. So like Rolla and Cass have expressed before me, I'm grateful for the work that city staff have engaged with Cadillac Fairview over the past few months on this project. I'm also here to say that there's room for more improvement. So I'll touch on a few key issues that I'm concerned about as a resident. So as others from my group have spoken to, number one is housing on this list. I'll add a few points from a local perspective on affordable housing. There have been 0 units of rent geared to income, deeply affordable housing constructed in this neighborhood since it was first developed in the about 50 years ago. And housing here is first and foremost designed as an investment rather than a basic necessity. And as a resident, consequently, I have seen neighbors move away from this area because housing costs are too high, especially for family-sized housing units. I've seen ads posted for housing where landlords want to rent a single apartment out to 6 or 7 people, often international students who are then scapegoated for the housing crisis. We've learned that the food bank services at Seneca College are always in high demand because there's many students who face food insecurity issues due to high housing costs. So we can't keep offloading the responsibility of housing purely onto the private sector. At this point, Cadillac Fairview's best offer of 3% of units being affordable means that the other 97% of the units will still likely be out of reach in cost for workers like new teachers who are the pension holders of Cadillac Fairview themselves, as well as retail workers. So since it's budget season, I ask that the city, working with all levels of government, commit public resources to maximizing the duration and proportion of affordable units here, in addition to securing concessions from the developer. So as others have also mentioned before, I also share concern about schools and pedestrian safety on site. I walk by Forest Manor Public School every day, and I count that there are 5 portables out there now. And with 12,000 new residents proposed for this site, as my other group members have mentioned, I think this warrants a new school. The city's own Growing Up guidelines call for high-quality, conveniently located schools. And from our allied agency surveys, we've heard from parents in the neighborhood that their top concern is road safety when picking up and dropping off their kids. So although there have been improvements in the latest official plan amendment application, Cadillac Fairview's proposed diagrams for a traffic and pedestrian circulation suggest that they're only willing to put in cosmetic improvements, if any, to existing pedestrian connections. And for me, that is unacceptable. So even if there aren't any new cars, crossings, or curb cuts proposed, there will still be 12,000 more people. And I will just ask the council to consider, if you live in this development, would you feel safe walking your children across a parking lot the length of the malt, and across service zones, and crossing the highway off-ramp that is Fairview Mall Drive, in order to get to Kings Lake Public School on the north of the site? And would your elderly relatives feel comfortable walking to the subway from the north of the site? So I think the community needs a much more ambitious plan. So to conclude, we need the city to step in and do what it can to provide the social infrastructures that are necessary for a complete community, but that the developer will never see a business case in. So we ask that the city and all levels of government do more work to secure more affordable housing, a spot for the school, and work with Cadillac Fairview to design a more ambitious public infrastructure. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. Any questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you very much. Mark Richardson? Nice to see you again, Mark. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So, councillors, I'm Mark Richardson. I'm the volunteer technical lead with an association called Housing Now TO. We track affordable housing developments within the borders of the City of Toronto, and are coming up on our 6th anniversary of doing that work. And I generally, our organization generally supports the things you're hearing from the Build a Better Fairview folks. We have taken them out on tours of other sites that are being developed by other large pension funds, including Councillor Pasternak, the lands on the Northcrest lands in your riding, next to subway stations, very similar kinds of examples. But really today, we're here to talk about Cadillac Fairview's responsibility to build housing for its own fund holders and members, building housing for teachers at this site and at other sites that they are developing within the City of Toronto. So we have this challenge in Toronto. Our median income is $84,000 a year of household income. And that means the most you can pay on rent is about $2,100 a month. First-year teachers, I don't think are making $84,000 a year in their first year. It takes a while for them to work up through the grid to get there. So the proposals that you're seeing from Cadillac Fairview, in many cases, are for kinds of housing that their own members could not afford to live in. That is a challenge that they should bear a shared responsibility for. Within the overall scope of your target that we talked about earlier, $65,000 total housing units. We used to do a lot of co-op housing. There's the hospital workers co-op on Merton, where unions partnered with their own pension funds, with the cities, to create housing for their workers near where they work and operate. I'm not going to share all of the painful data, but I just want you to know that from the 2021 census, the City of Toronto was missing 210,000 apartments that would rent at or below $1,700 a month. So even if you get to all 65,000 units by 2030, you've still done less than your deficit was back in 2021. And these numbers for household income are going to be worse in 2026 because people were getting CERB payments during the last round of the census. So these numbers are brutal. And it's the responsibility not just of government, it's the responsibility also of our public sector workers and our public sector unions to come to the table to help solve the problem for their own workers. We've been very involved in this site with Councillor Carroll and on the other site that's being developed by Cadillac Fairview at East Harbour, which is down in Councillor Fletcher's ward, where they are asking for more housing and less office space, another kind of employment conversion. And we are fully supportive of office conversions. We are fully supportive of building on parking lots. We have no problems with height, with density, with shadows. What we are concerned about is the pension fund's responsibility to create affordable housing that their own members can afford to live in. And right now, they are absentee landlords. They are deadbeat dads on this file. How do we stop that? We came to the virtual meetings for the Fairview Mall redevelopment. We were at the in-person meetings with Councillor Carroll. Nobody from Cadillac Fairview is surprised that I'm saying this here today because I said it in the Toronto Star a month ago. All right? We have to get OMERS, we have to get Cadillac Fairview, we have to get Oxford Properties. You can't recruit paramedics in this city because paramedics can't afford to live here in this city and work 12-hour shifts. Meanwhile, pension funds from City Hall are building housing that new paramedics can't afford to live in. This is a shared responsibility for everyone. Right now, this is the situation we're in, and it sounds kind of crazy. Full-time employees of City Hall, full-time employees of our school boards, teachers who are paying into the Cadillac Fairview pension plan, they're eligible to apply for your affordable housing lotteries. Because the income bands are getting higher and higher every year as the lack of affordable housing is created. So this is the housing lottery that's open right now in North York. It's on Redpath. It's open till November 17th. I recommend everybody in Build Better Fairview applies for this housing lottery. I recommend that everybody who's looking for a cheaper place to rent, there's 90 units there, applies for it. It is, incomes between about $50,000 and up to $102,000 per year in household income now qualify you for a housing lottery. So we want you to pass this today, but we want to try finding ways to sharpen our pencils and have a conversation likely at the union level with Mayor Chow and the folks who actually run the teachers' pension plan and who run Oxford and OMERS about their responsibility to create housing on the lands they are developing for the workers who will be the next generation of workers in this city as teachers and as City Hall employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for the deputant? No? Okay, thank you very much, Mark. And by the way, we're going to be closing your favorite parking lot on November
I know.
the 18th.
You need bigger signs. The signs are too small right now.
Okay, we'll do bigger.
Otherwise, people are going to be mad at you in 2 weeks.
Yes, no, they're going to be. They've been mad at me for 6 years. But anyway, there are alternative parking lots, so we're alerting them to that. Okay, so questions for staff? Okay, Councillor Carroll?
Just one. I'm wondering if staff can just outline what in its simplest terms, what are we doing today? And by that, what I mean is you've heard a lot of deputations about what needs to happen in future phases that isn't before us today. So what are we getting a commitment for today, and what's the future potential as we go through the zoning phases of this long build out?
Through the chair, before I turn it over to staff to respond to your question, I just wanted to express my thanks to both the staff team at the city and also the Cadillac Fairview team for working collaboratively together to put this document together. It's taken over 6 months to do it, but we've brought it to a point where we are quite satisfied with it, with our recommendation. So with that, I'll turn it over to our staff to walk you through the process.
Hi, Michelle Charco, Senior Planner. Thank you for the question, Councillor. So the draft official plan amendment that's before Community Council today, what it represents is a 30-year-long master plan vision for an 18-hectare site. There are 5 different phases that are proposed within that master plan, and each of those 5 phases is going to require a future rezoning application, a site plan application, and a subdivision application. At this time, we are only recommending an approval for the official plan amendment, which is the vision for the whole site. There is an active application for rezoning on phase 1, but that was parked temporarily while we dealt with the draft official plan amendment with Cadillac Fairview. But there's still, that zoning process is still happening right now, and once that's complete, there'll be a site plan and a subdivision, and then each of the phases will be subject to that as well.
A site plan is sort of a point of negotiation. At that point, we have another discussion.
For rezoning, yes.
Okay, okay. Do you know what? I think those are my questions. I think that's it, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to move to speak.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for staff? No? Okay, speakers, Councillor Carroll?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So you heard a lot of things that there are concerns about here. The working group being there throughout the build out, I'm very intrigued at that, but I want it to be similar to what we had in a tenant group when we were going through Parkway Forest. So I'm going to take that one away because I think what we want to do is wrap some terms of reference around it and figure out how it would work, which means possibly moving it at council, but we may even move beyond that. I'm going to talk to clerks about whether we can really set that up properly and then bring it as a standalone. So I'm gonna need some time to talk about how I'd be able to do that. Some of the other things, particularly the public realm and school site pieces, there is the potential in the future phases to do that. I'm proceeding today with the recommendations we have because what you've had before you just prior to this, the 3 buildings are ready to go now and going ahead, which is phase 1. And I think it's important to get that on the ground. And we've started here with an application that put a sign up on the street telling people 12 buildings are coming, but then came in to apply for just the first 3. I want to echo Mr. Sitt's comments in thanking Cadillac Fairview because this application went in just as the provincial government changed their rules that said, okay, council, decide, you've got 90 days. And after that, they can go to the OLT. Boom, done. And we made an appeal first in this council chamber and following it up to Cadillac Fairview. Yeah, you do. You have that prerogative now. However, this is a community that had an 18-month intensive community process to decide Parkway Forest, which was a similar intensification just south of it. And that's the kind of iterative process they're now used to. Not a lot of time has passed. And so the things that we got in addition to a school, a community center, all of that stuff that could happen over the phases was the result of having a working group there, but also taking our time up front to really make sure that there was a master plan in place with phasing, some holds, this has to happen before that can happen, and so on and so forth. So those are the things that we're looking at now, but what this does is lay down the groundwork for that to now proceed. This OPA allows us to now sit down and through what Michelle just described, go through those steps with certain things committed to and proceed from there. The other thing I'm really grateful for is Mr. Richardson's deputation today, because we are not talking about a conventional, family-built business that became so successful as we know some of our bigger developers to be. We are talking about pension plans. And this Cadillac Fairview is majorly controlled by pension plans, as are other firms, and yet there is no ethical investment strategy around housing for any of the leading ones. And if we don't think that they have influence over the planning policy we're living by at the provincial level, we're dreaming. They have influence in those offices. And to say to them, you have to hear the community when the community says, we will accept density if it's a neighborhood you're building, not just buildings. In this case, we were able to pull the applicant, a pension plan applicant in the form of Cadillac Fairview, into that conversation and talk about the neighborhood. We've nailed down some of the pieces. We need to go further in the affordable housing piece. On the topic of school sites, we have another applicant now working with TDSB and TLC on the potential to take both of the senior schools nearby and amalgamate and build one development community with a brand new junior and high school rolled into one. And both of the schools that we're talking about replacing badly need physical plant overhaul, so that would be welcome. We have a couple of elementary schools that are going to happen in the Canadian Tire lands. One as a result of being able to be built by the developer into the base of a condominium. We're almost there on the public school, but that's happening at the 20-year mark in a 20-year build out. We had to wait till the tail end to say, please, please, now can we have a school? And that's another failure of provincial policy. Can't even blame it on the current government because another government had 13 years to fix that problem and didn't. So I think it's a level issue rather than a party issue in terms of orders of government. The provincial government has got to wrap its head around the fact that if you want us to fit 4.5 million people into this city, we're going to have to assume that the children in it still have to go to school. And that's a policy fix that I don't care what party does it, it's got to be done. But in the meantime, really through stone soup types of development conversations, we're piecing together what we need to build a school. And it shouldn't be as hard as it is. And lastly, Mr. Nelson mentioned, why is it 14, not 12? I want to applaud staff because in all of these mall developments, while we see, the mall's going to stay put, they very much demanded that the conversation entertain, and what if the mall's not there one day? Yeah, just about done.
Yeah, please.
Because this is so precedent setting. We all have a mall that is developing. Center Point. Here, all the way out to Sherway Gardens. Yorkdale. So I just want to make this point.
I understand it's
that
important.
staff are being forward-thinking. I know that developers are pushing back, but we have to put the infrastructure there and the community infrastructure there for the day that mall disappears. And so I know we're being demanding about this, but across the city, we need these things to turn into communities.
Yes, fair enough. Yeah, so we certainly have the Yorkdale file. That's not in my ward, but when Yorkdale sneezes, Ward 6 catches pneumonia. 100%. Yes. It's going to be a lot of sneezes, and the parking's going to go underground. Okay, so any other speakers on the item? No? Okay, Councillor Cole, are you moving it? Yes. Okay, staff recommendations moved. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We're now on item 24. I do not have speakers on the item. We were going to... So, Councillor Carroll, I think you held the item for questions of staff. 24. It's Bayview Avenue, on-street pay and display. It's Ward 15 with the vacancy.
I don't know if you tabled a deferral. What I would like is to move this. This is very much does not impede traffic. It currently is traffic that police are expending a lot of money enforcing a 1 hour, 2 hour limit. What we're finding is that we capture revenue, but you get a turnover of the parking and them leaving if you just replace what is a lane blocked with parking that is hard to enforce with pay and display. Let the little green machine do the enforcing and let the police get on with fighting crime and finding stolen cars.
Okay, well, look, I didn't realize it was so urgent. I'll withdraw my motion of deferral, and if Councillor Carroll wants to move the staff recommendations, that's fine with me. And it'll be one less headache for the new coming councillor.
Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number 25, we do have one deputation on it. Peggy Judge.
Are they still out there?
Okay. Oh, 25 was deferred. 27, Vincent Maffei. 27 is 110 Cairns Avenue. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is the second last item, councillors. And Councillor Cheng, this is your item. Okay, thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of Community Council. My name is Vincent Maffei. I'm here on behalf of my son and his family that will reside at the 110 Cairns Avenue when it's completed. We are requesting today the removal of a tree in front of our driveway located in the Boulevard. Simply stated, the house has been built in accordance with the approved plans and permits. The update survey shows the house in its proper location. Unfortunately, the tree, when planted approximately 10 years ago, was not planted in its proper location, having regard to reinvestment of the lot that has been built on the property. In order to save the tree, we had the hydro pole to its left moved approximately 3 meters in order to accommodate a lesser driveway and save the tree. Unfortunately, when it was built, the driveway was built and the entrance is approximately 2.5 meters in width. There is issues with its efficacy and requiring that making an application for the tree removal. And that is our request. We do have a safety issue in entering and exiting the driveway. The driveway and the garages will accommodate 3 vehicles for my family. I drive a truck, and parking the truck on the right side of the driveway with the tree behind it, I noted it on 3 separate occasions. I virtually backed into the tree out of happenstance. And that is one of the reasons that we're here today to request a removal. We are prepared to plant the 5-6 trees required if removal is approved. And one other note is the fact that a similar situation is occurring across the street from us at 104 Cairns Avenue. The applicant and builder requested removal of 2 healthy trees, and my understanding is that approval perhaps has been granted. The house being built there required the removal of two blue spruce trees in excess of 30 feet in height and 18 inches in diameter. Those trees have been removed. In contemplation of that, I did request, ask the city to see whether they received approval or not, and that's still pending, as far as I know. So if my neighbor's request has been approved by City Council, I suggest that my request should be approved today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your deputation. Any questions of the deputant? Councillor Burnside?
Thank you, through you. So where was the driveway, where's the curb cut before you rebuilt, the house was rebuilt?
The curb cut will be to the left of the tree, 1.8 meters away from the tree, and approximately 1.5 meters away from the pole. In total, the width of the...
No, where's there's no curb cut there now.
No,
Where
there
was
isn't that. No, there isn't as yet, no.
No, but there's an original house.
Oh, the driveway was facing Chelmsford Avenue.
On the other street?
That's correct, yes,
Okay.
which is it's a collector road and very busy street.
Okay, so when you put your application in, where was the curb cut going to go as part of the application?
Where you see it now in the...
Where that
yes.
little driveway is, okay.
That's correct.
Did no one say anything about the tree at that point?
We contemplated that the 2.5 meters would suffice, but unfortunately it does not.
Hold on, sorry.
By practice.
So the application was granted at that point, keeping the tree in place, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So you said that it's a safety issue. There's a truck coming out, there's a truck that you park on looking at the house on the right-hand side, almost hit the tree?
Yes, it is a safety issue. On 3 separate occasions, I found myself backing into the tree, almost backing into the tree, damaging the tree and my truck.
Well, but to do so, you'd have to go over the sidewalk where you could have hit a pedestrian. So I would think the tree is your secondary issue. I'd be more concerned about the people on the sidewalk.
No, when I'm backing out of the driveway, sir. When you back out of the driveway, notwithstanding that there's pedestrians and so on and so forth, from time to time you forget that the tree is there because you can't see it when you're looking sideways. Okay, so from time to time.
My last question is, if you're going to remove that tree, where's the curb cut? The curb
cut will be will increase from 2.5 meters to 6 meters.
Oh, you want to go
to the right?
Okay, so now I got questions of staff.
To the right. Okay. To the right of.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know that that's normally legal to have such a wide curb cut, but I'm gonna have to ask staff that.
It's 6 meters is the appropriate width of.
I'll ask them
for a 2-car driveway.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the deputant and the homeowner? No? Okay, we're going to go to staff. Thank you very much for your comments. I don't know, Councillor Burnside, then Councillor Carroll? Councillor Carroll first. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I'm wondering if staff can tell me what the approval was here. I'm looking at a drawing and I see new curb cut. Would the applicant have been told at the time that he was only going to be approved for a single driveway curb cut?
Through the chair, thank you. This goes back quite a ways. The Committee of Adjustment application that preceded a building permit issuance was, I believe, 2022.
That's hardly any time at all. Go ahead.
Perspective, thank you. At that time, we did not speak against the driveway configuration or the non-flanking driveway, as it's called, because the tree was demonstrated to be protected. And so can you ask your question again? I want to be clear that I want to be sure that I answer
What I'm asking
it.
is, you know, we're looking at the drawing of his plan. So it looks like he came in protecting the tree and asking for a single driveway curb cut. Was he
Correct.
approved for that or
Yeah.
or
Yes, yeah, up to building permit issuance.
right? So he got a building permit to put in a driveway width of 2.53 meters, which leaves the tree right where it's standing, but then put in a double-car garage. Now, if he's meeting the landscape requirements, he's allowed to have a double-car garage and a double driveway. He simply has to be prepared to redirect and use his single curb cut to get out onto the street. Is that, am I reading that right? Am I reading the plans right?
Yeah, yes, you are. I would say that without trying to put motive or intent in this, I think that they perhaps had good intentions to preserve the tree or intended to defer the tree issue until a later time, and they sought permission that they could get at an earlier stage. Had they put the tree removal on the table at the earlier stage, we would have written against it at the Committee of Adjustment stage.
Right. And the other thing that we're trying to preserve, and the reason we prefer single curb cuts is in any street, we're also trying to preserve street parking, are we not? And so we would have said yes to a new curb cut, whereas asking for a double driveway curb cut at this point would have been a bigger deal.
Through the chair, and I can possibly jump to Councillor Burnside's pending question on this as well. A two-car garage and a two-car driveway servicing it are relatively normal throughout the city. The zoning allows, I believe it's 5.8 meters, and I'm speaking outside of my area of expertise here, so bear with me. But the variance which was given for the driveway width at the time allows a 6-meter wide driveway, as the deputant mentioned, on private property. The city doesn't have to follow suit on that on the city right-of-way.
That's what I'm trying to get at, which is our street planning piece. They're two different things, what we allow on the lot and then what we allow in the way of a curb cut to our right-of-way, because you're on our right-of-way as soon as you get to the sidewalk. So that's where we make the curb cut determination, not on the basis of what your house looks like. Am I right about that?
We want to be fair players. The reason Forestry denied the application was because everything up to the point of the tree permit application indicated that the tree would be preserved, including a decision by the Committee of Adjustment. And we felt it was not Forestry's place to issue an approval or bring an approval to the councillor where a decision by the Committee of Adjustment had the tree preservation on it.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Oh, there's a follow-up answer from Transportation.
Yes, thanks, Councillor. And while I'm not the subject matter expert on this, that would be our Permanence and Enforcement Group. I would say that, yes, it is typical if there is a two-car garage for there to be a double-wide curb cut. So had there not been a tree in place during this application, I fully expect that a double-wide curb cut would have been approved by our Permits and Enforcement Group.
But we run into these challenges as soon as you reorient a corner lot. You're moving from a street that only had 2 or 3 houses on it, and that the driveway was over there, where it would have been easier to do this. We're now looking at a street with a lot of driveways on it and limited parking, and so, you know, we solved 2 things here. Let's protect the tree and limit the amount of curb cut on this street. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thanks for your indulgence, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Any other questions for staff? No? Okay.
Is there street parking on that street?
I haven't looked closely at it. We don't usually inspect tree removal.
But this is North York, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's 3-hour parking.
So North York doesn't allow any parking anywhere, does it?
Yeah, 3-hour bylaw.
Okay.
Okay, Counselor Cheng?
So I'm just wondering how common this is, that somebody builds a 2-car garage but doesn't have the opportunity to create a double-sized curb cut because of a tree. Is there precedence for this in the city?
Through the chair, there are a number of precedents. Forestry is leaning into tree preservation more and more, and so we are more comfortable saying no to tree removals, and unfortunately that requires changes to your driveway. That's a change that I've seen in my 5 to 10 years with the city, and I expect it to continue. Yes, there are absolutely precedents, and there are also precedents for situations like this where the initial attempt is to preserve the tree, and it turns out to not be feasible. I wish I had the address handy. There was one from Councillor Pasternak's ward a couple of years ago that came to Community Council, a very similar situation. I think it was Palm Drive, it might have been. It was a corner property, and the applicant kept hitting the tree because the single wide and the pole was in the way and all those sorts of things. So yes, it happens in that.
So is there a risk here where, are we setting a precedence where you go to committee of adjustment and you say you're preserving the tree, but then later when the whole thing is built, then because you don't want to risk your application at the committee of adjustment, that this becomes a norm, that people will try to get tree removals after the building has been built out?
I don't believe that there's a risk in this situation. This application reflects a rather unusual set of circumstances that have all come together to bring us to this situation, and I don't see it occur very often. Barring the committee of adjustment and the non-flanking driveway issue, we would take a look at these applications and do our best to preserve the tree, and if we can't, then we bring it to the ward councillor at a minimum.
Great, that's it for my questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cheng. Any other questions for staff? No? Okay, then we're going to go to speakers. Councillor Burnside.
Thank you, through you. So I almost never oppose cutting down of trees, right? Like, I love trees, but I recognize property owners need to do what they need to do. My bigger concern is that a set of facts were presented to the Committee of Adjustment, and based on those facts, a decision was made about the development. We try to represent our community and folks that might oppose certain parts of developments or would like to see things differently, but a decision is made based on the facts that are presented. And that decision was made for the single curb cut. And then after the Committee of Adjustment, where people may not have even been concerned because of the facts they saw and what were presented to them, we're now trying to change those facts very quickly after that. And that is a problem for our system. And it denigrates our Committee of Adjustment system that is kind of teetering as it is. So I'm going to vote against this, not so much because of the tree, but because of the process that was followed.
Any other speakers other than me? Oh, Councillor Cheng?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to be backed into a corner now to have to support the resident to have a proper curb cut for the house that he has already built, but the systemic piece of Committee of Adjustment having one set of truths presented to them and now having an opposing truth presented to us. I think that is where it's very hard to support expanding the curb cut. Thank you.
I'm going to be the outlier here. I'm going to support removal. Look, life is not perfect. It's true that years ago, maybe some things were said in front of the community council. Things change, plans change. People are human, and I think we have to show that kind of flexibility here. I think we've all done renovations in our home, and what we end up with was often quite different than what we started with over a period of time. And I think we ask for that flexibility in our personal lives. I think we should offer it to residents as well. So I'm going to be voting in favor of removal of this tree. It is under 30 centimeters. It's 23 centimeters in diameter. It can be easily replaced with our tree replacement program. And I think people have a right to the quiet enjoyment of their home. And I see the longer we delay in removing this tree, the bigger the problem becomes, not only for the homeowner, but for the city as well. So that's my position. Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I'm going to support the chairman on this. Committee of Adjustment is not a perfect institution in any way, shape, or form. Or to try and say that sanctimonious body cannot be, decisions can't be altered is beyond the pale. So I just think that the citizens have a right to come here and appeal, and we may disagree with them on their appeal, but we are charged with listening to them and evaluating their appeal. So I think the tree is small, replace with 5 trees somewhere else, and allow the new homeowner, residents, to safely enter and exit their garage. It's the reality that the garage is there, the curb cut. In North York, there's never any parking on the streets anyway, so let's let the homeowner enjoy the property safely. I support Councillor Pasternak's granting the curb cut. Thank you. Tree removal.
Hey, Councillor Carroll.
I'm sorry, but I just want to, I wasn't even going to speak, but I just want to support the comments that Councillor Burnside made, because this takes me back to a very problematic property, and I really think people have to think about what happens. If you really look at this on a map, we run into these problems wherever we let a house reorient, where they're going to have their access and egress. I'm thinking of a landmark example in Councillor Moscow's ward. It's probably yours now, Councillor Pasternak. And it came back here 3 times with problems caused by reorienting a house and not using the side street. Because the street that this corners with, easy to put in a driveway there. There are only a few houses on it, I think 6 in total. But we've now reoriented this house to Keynes Avenue. Its access and egress is on a street with so many driveways. I honestly don't know if your kid was getting married, where everyone was going to park. There are so many driveways on this street that I think that's part of the reason that the original planners planned this street so that on the corner lots, they're oriented around the other side to leave a little breathing room for visitors, et cetera, et cetera. And now, as Councillor Burnside points out, on a statement of fact and mitigating somewhat by making it a single curb width, Committee of Adjustment made a leap. But they had the facts before them and figured, this could be a problem, but we're mitigating it somewhat by limiting, and now we're overriding that. And I honestly think that you'll find the people of Keynes Avenue looking back a year later and saying, I can't find a place for my mother-in-law to stop her car. Where's she going to put her car now? Where are all these driveways coming from? I think it's why they made the decision they made, and I really think that's an apolitical system that you're better off letting do the work. I'm going to be supporting Councillor Burnside's motion to uphold staff.
Okay, so I think we're ready for a vote on this. my motion's going to go first. I'm approving the removal for the reasons I gave in my remarks, and that is on the screen, and we'll do a recorded vote. All those in favor of approving the removal of... There's a motion on the screen. All those in favor? In favor is Councillor Cole and Councillor Pasternak. Opposed? Councillor Carroll, Councillor Burnside, and Councillor Cheng. And the staff recommendations to deny the request. All those in favor? Councillor Carroll, Councillor Burnside, Councillor Cheng. Opposed? Councillor Cole and Councillor Pasternak. Yeah. Last item is item 28, 201 Woburn Avenue. We have 3 speakers on the item. Chris Chong. Okay, Chris, thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes. Are you the homeowner? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hello, I'm the homeowner of 201 Woburn Avenue, and I've lived there with my wife and 2 kids for the last 16 years. I've also been a City of Toronto employee for the past 27 years, and part of my job is assessing and managing risks. In the last 2 years, we have had a large amount of dangerous branches falling from our silver maple in our backyard. In fact, one fell straight down and pierced a hole in the roof of our detached garage. So this is the tree here. Yeah. And the measurement the city placed on this tree is 135 centimeters in diameter, and that's 53 inches across. There's more pictures of the tree's canopy. You can see how it towers above all 3 of our properties. It's enormous. It's a monster. It's more than 4 feet diameter. That particular branch hangs over our neighbor's backyard with kids playing back there. And keep in mind, these are postage stamp backyards. Oops. There's the tree from the other angle, and you can see how small the backyards are and how close the houses are together, and the enormity of that tree. Oops, sorry. This is our house from the front, and you can see we do take pride in ownership and in beautifying the neighborhood. I did receive arborist reports. His name is Trevor Whiteside, and his report stated, the tree is a species and as a specific tree has a possible likelihood of failure in part or in whole within the next 1 to 3 years. The tree is in a confined backyard and extends over several properties with houses, backyards, and garages. This is an overmature silver maple that is no longer botanically viable. The species has a high rate of failure at this size and age. The tree has developed noted defects in both the secondary and main trunk. It is not an appropriate tree for this location. It is recommended the tree be removed before any large failures occur. And he goes on to quote a textbook. It's called Evaluation of Hazardous Trees in Urban Areas, 2nd edition. Silver maples, as a species, when mature, have a higher than average rate of failure. Branch and scaffold failure due to poor branch attachments, and decay often in snow and ice storms. Trunk failure from internal decay, and most notably, high rate of failure for old, mature individuals. Now, CBC News has a lifespan for common urban trees, and silver maple has one of 100 years old expected lifespan. This chart was taken from a government site in the US, and it has the estimated age of urban trees. The silver maple, with a diameter of 45 inches, has an estimated age of 136 years old. My tree is 53 inches, so it's much older than 136 years old. These are just more citations from that document. Now, there is a tree formula you can use to calculate an estimated age of the tree. Diameter times the growth factor. Now, we know the diameter of my tree is 53 inches. The growth factor of a silver maple is 3. That would estimate this tree at 159 years old, and that's for a tree with an average lifespan of 100 years old. This is again a calculator you can use, and this is in centimeters, and you can see it does calculate it out to 159 years old. I went to some other city websites to see how the data they had on silver maples. City of Wisconsin states it's a weak wood that is susceptible to breakage and storms.
If you could just wrap up, you're closing in on 5 minutes.
Oh, shoot. They have a lifespan of about 100 years. Boise says this class 3 maple has a weak wood that is prone to extensive decay, creating extreme public hazard. Silver maple is more prone to storm damage than any other species in Boise.
Okay,
And it states, this is an important one, despite positives of fast growth, nice form, and excellent shade, the negatives of soft, weak, and decay-prone wood makes this tree unadvisable in yard and boulevard conditions.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks very much for your comments. Maybe you can fill in any gaps.
Yeah, sorry. I had a whole presentation,
No.
but basically it's
No, you've done a lot of research. Okay,
yeah.
So any questions for the deputies? No? Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Holly Schoeneman?
She's online.
Holly? Okay, thanks for joining us. You have 5 minutes. Holly? Can you hear us? What's your volume? Is your volume on? Are you muted? Yeah, can you do a sound check? Can you start speaking? Can you hear us? No, we can't. Yeah.
The right.
Oh, there you
here
are.
I am.
Okay. All right,
Here I
Holly.
am.
Yep. Okay. Thanks for joining us. Your 5
Okay.
minutes.
I'm here. Thanks for your time this afternoon. I'm the homeowner at 203 Woburn. I am about a foot away from Chris's house. Like other people who spoke today, I love trees. I believe in a well-treed neighborhood. It's critical. I have a nasty, ugly pine tree on the front of my property that kills my lawn, and I would never dream of taking it down. This is a different story. This tree is a monster. I think this request is quite reasonable. It's at least 5 stories tall. It's about 20 feet from my house, and it's about 15 feet from Chris's house. It's all trunk, and then it does have a canopy, but it's fairly limited. It's a giant tree with all trunk all the way up. I worry about damage from a lightning strike or an upheaval, and we've seen lots of tree upheaval in this neighborhood over 20 years I've lived here. There can be windstorms that topple the trees. We've seen it time and time again. The damage would be significant to my home. There would be no escape. It literally would crush the back of my house. And this is the bedroom that my son sleeps in. So that concerns me. I do think it's not fair to be living with this risk when we know the risk is there and to have that concern. I've seen a couple of other trees that have been discussed today at this committee, and this is just nothing of that nature. This is just an absolutely enormous tree. So I'm highly supportive of the request, and I think it would enhance the safety and enjoyment of the neighborhood quite a lot to take this tree down.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the deputant? Okay, thank you very much, Holly, for your comments. Last speaker on the item is Columba Conte.
Hi, my name is Columba, and that was my husband, Chris, that you heard speak. I will be brief. Basically, my neighbor was unable to be here, and she wanted her voice to be heard, so I am reading a letter on her behalf. I'm writing to request the approval of removing the tree at 201 Woburn Ave. My family and I live next door at 195 Woburn Ave. We have a 2-year-old who loves to play outdoors in our backyard. We also use the backyard to get to our garage, as garages in our area are not connected to the houses. We strongly believe that this tree is a serious hazard to the health and safety of our family and home, and of course our neighbors' families and homes as well. The tree has a big branch leaning toward our home and is above our family room, which is where my 2-year-old son plays. The branch is really tilted and extended, and we fear it falling on our roof, especially when it gets windy. Also, large tree branches have already fallen off into our backyard and onto our roof. I dread the day other branches that are almost the size of a small tree were to ever fall off. They could cut off electricity and internet cables running above our backyards, and God forbid, lead to a fire or bigger losses and damage. Houses in this area don't have a lot of outdoor space. In our backyard, it's hard to create a safe zone because everywhere is affected by this tree. I strongly encourage you to come for a visit to see what I mean. I will also take a picture of the falling branches next time it happens, so I have proof for you. I'm just hoping it's not too late and we have not suffered any loss by then because of this tree. We need this tree removed to ensure a safe environment for our family and neighbors. We love greenery and trees, but this one is getting really dangerous. I've always asked Chris, owner of 201 Woburn, to do something about that tree in his yard, and I'm glad that finally now he is making a move on this. On a side note, we are not jobless people sitting around with nothing better to do than write an email to remove a tree. We are busy professionals just like yourselves, trying hard to make a living. We would really appreciate it if you could help us feel more safe in our home by removing the emotional stress of having a potentially dangerous tree hanging over us. We also know that your team is doing other things, making our city a better place for everyone to live. We understand that you wouldn't know if something necessarily was going wrong in our backyard, so that's why we come to you with this reasonable request for the removal of my neighbor's tree. We appreciate your understanding and look forward to a favorable decision on this. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime if you need more information. And that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comments. Are there any questions for the deputant? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, questions for staff. Councillor Carroll?
You had some too? Yeah, so tell us about silver maples. This one looks, it's very tall, maybe very old, but it's also very tall. It looks like it's never been pruned or trained in any way. It looks like the canopy's all at the very top.
Through the chair, I would say that is a sign that it probably has been pruned.
Okay.
The lower branches would have been removed over the generations and the decades to create this sort of very high canopied form.
Okay, so does that weaken it in any way? I was reading up, and a silver maple is a pretty hardy tree, but it's been pruned. The canopy's all the way up top, except for that one branch that we saw. The branch looked like it had some spring in it. But is it weakened in any way in the way it's growing now?
I have to answer that a little bit more broadly and go beyond the implications of pruning and speak to the tree more generally. Yeah. The tree is not without defects, but we look critically at the defects and try to determine to the best of our ability from the ground whether those defects unreasonably compromise the safety or the risk associated with the tree. We've addressed some of those in our report, and you know, without arguing or refuting the existence of those defects, we don't think that that's the case in this particular situation with this particular tree. And that's the preface to saying that, you know, the wrong kind of pruning can create structural weakness in a tree, but you have to consider the extent of that. You know, is it a percentages game? If a tree is 2% weaker, I have to answer, yes, it's weaker, but it's not really relevant in the larger scheme of things.
Right.
So the wrong kind of pruning can make a tree weaker, but I don't think that that has happened in this case.
Okay. And it's a big tree in a small backyard, you know, but it's still a big tree. And that's the crux of our tree preservation policy, isn't it? Where we have big, healthy ones, we need to keep those for our tree canopy preservation.
I would respond and say that personally, I'm more interested in preserving the mid-size classes of trees, and even trees like the one that you all just supported, because those are the trees of the future generations. You know, in terms of you know, future contributions, which is what we are most interested in, that's an aspect to consider in this conversation, I think.
Okay, that is very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Cheng?
Yes. I'm just wondering, is this tree reaching the end of its lifespan, as mentioned by our deputants, that it's 150 years old, the lifespan of the tree is around that? Just wondering what your thoughts are about the lifespan of this tree.
I think that those numbers are based out of slightly more moderate climates, and so I don't know whether that number is, you know, those numbers are realistic for this tree, absolutely. But I would reframe your question to human geriatrics. You know, what do we do with people when they get old and when they start to reach senescence, and you know, we're not too hasty in situations like that. Just because a patient is sick or ailing or in decline doesn't mean we treat it as
But how long,
terminal.
how many more years do you think this tree can live?
We wouldn't be bringing this to council if we thought that number was small. So I couldn't give a number of years, but often in my career, we talk about 5-year intervals. What's going to happen within 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I would say we're at the upper end of that with this tree. I don't foresee any imminent problems. You know, the horizontal branch was shown in the photos and raised in the comments. That could be pruned without removing the tree.
Great.
That particular risk would be resolved by doing that.
Okay.
And so, you know, I'm afraid I cannot give you black and white answers with this, but I would say that barring unforeseen circumstances, I would say this tree has many years left ahead of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cheng. Speakers? One speaker? Okay, and that speaker is Councillor Cole.
Yeah, that's in my ward. Take it away. I'm going to move that the tree, they allow to cut down the tree, and as a motion, the alternative, approve the request to permit the removal. And I think the reasons stated by the homeowner, I move the recommendation as number one.
That was beautiful.
All right. So we have an alternative recommendation before us. I think when this homeowner sees how much it's going to cost to remove this tree, I think this tree is going to stay there for many years to come. But that being said, let's put the motion on the screen. This is an alternative motion. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And okay, that concludes the last item for today, and now we'll do the bills. Councillor Cheng, did you want to read the bills? Yeah, there's.
That bills 1112 and
Let's see
1121 prepared for the October 29, 2024 North York Council meeting number 18 of the North York Community Council be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
Very nice. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Counselor Cole, did you want to do the confirmatory bills?
Yes, the confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Northern Community Council acting under the authority of meeting 18 October 29, 2024 be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 22.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006. I so moved.
Thank you. I'm not sure I heard any of that, but I'm sure it was all read. Anyway, okay, all those in all those in favor? All those opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. That concludes our business for today. Thank you very much, city staff, clerk, councilors, and of course, members of the public. And enjoy the rest of the day.